we go.
Hang on. I am out of position. Hang on.
Oh, we have Robert's head.
Robert now has a squatting desk.
No, yeah, exactly.
Well, you know,
The Kilroy is what we call that.
This is great. Welcome, everyone, to show 500.
500 episodes.
The band is back together, except for Stuart, who decided, well, we can talk bad about Stuart. He's not here. Stuart's not here, so we can talk smack about him. But those that are important are here, okay? Mr. Tim Peter.
And also me.
Robert's red. What's Robert's red now?
Red Robert Cole.
Robert Cole. DJ
Red Robert.
Yum.
We'd like to talk about technology today, and our technology consultant, Robert Cole.
I'm having a little bit of a problem with something that has interrupted my screen background here, and I don't know. I need to figure this out. So,
did you have an unscheduled deorbiting of your spacecraft from the rear end today?
Exactly.
And of course, Mr. Edward St. Ange from Flip2, just to make sure I made sure you get all the invites of everyone in. So, Mr. Robert Cole is under the Witness Protection Program. We will now refer to him as Mr. Red.
Exactly.
Ever since he published all that stuff from Epstein's Island, you know.
Yeah, all of a sudden, security protocols. He can't go out in public anymore.
I'm making a political statement just in terms of my color background. What can I say?
I guess, yes.
He's going to make America Robert again.
I've gone full red pill. What can I say?
You live in a red state, so sure, you know, yeah.
Very interesting here. Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to start with congratulating you, Lauren. 500 episodes. You have kept this show running no matter where you were or what was going on. It's truly impressive for you to your dedication to educating the industry should be applauded.
Thank you. My therapist says it's been helping me a lot. So, and there's a lot less voices. I just keep your voices in my head now, not near the dozen I had before.
Now, are they in agreement or do they still disagree all the time?
No, shut up. Let them talk. No, Robert, the voice that sounds most like you, I usually disagree with the most. So just, put it in context for what it's worth on that one. So,
and usually that's when Lauren just kind of browns out for about 4 hours. That's Robert's voice in his head.
Robert's voice. That'll only take a minute, but yes, but here we are. Hey, I'm also calling the kettle black on that one. It's like, oh, I got to call Lauren. Wait a minute. Do I have the hour?
So Lauren and I discussed this, and Lauren has prepared clips from previous episodes to play.
Yes, the forever highlight reel.
They're mainly just us saying and or can I talk for a second? So the next 5 hours will be just those clips.
Well, I was going to do a highlight reel of Robert, but then again, we are already having enough footage for a month and a half of perpetual watching, most of which, when you categorize the amount of time, was Robert Cole.
And true to old school form, Robert took the time to send an email to all of us with topics that none of us read.
Of course.
But we're
I skimmed at least 3 of them.
Ooh.
Nobody clicked on any of the links, but that's okay.
Wow, he's tracking that stuff now. I didn't know he tracked it from before. Maybe he didn't track it before. I don't know.
Well, actually, Robert, we're all on Mac, so none of that gets tracked.
Exactly. We're anonymous.
Yeah.
We use architecture that respects our privacy.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that they can sell us ads.
Cameras. Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, you guys probably didn't see there is a very interesting Medium post of a guy who I follow who basically tries to break down the system instructions for AIs. And he got into copilots, and guess what? It saves all your stuff and profiles you and
No way.
figures. Oh yeah,
I'm
What?
shocked.
What,
Shocked.
what
my
do you know?
God,
Yeah.
really?
No way.
Yeah. So
This is my
I was-
shock face.
I was actually
It's
thinking
also his
about
Home
that.
Alone face, but it's straight up.
I was thinking about that yesterday because Lauren shared with me a couple of cool things he found, and one of them was hooking up AI to your database so you can ask questions of it. And instantly in my head, I'm like, boy, this is a security problem. Like, hey, and you know, it isn't just a single service, it's connecting all of them. So
Yeah.
this has to be the most popular service by the AI companies, because literally it's just, oh sure, I want to ask my database question, so I'll connect every AI service
Yep.
to it, and you know, nothing could go wrong with that.
No,
if you read the terms of
with that model.
service, when you read the terms of service for Google, right, for all of them, it becomes their data. You are training their model, and I think they put up some things for the enterprise levels where they go, oh well, we won't do it for you.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
everybody else if you aren't on an enterprise subscription, if you're on the pro level or whatever, you know, plus levels or all those, you're just giving them the whole thing, which
You actually can read the terms of service in about 0.7 seconds, because it literally just reads "mind."
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Well, more importantly, they provide a service because they want to make sure you read the terms of services, where you can ask their AI to summarize the terms of service, and it actually just says, don't worry about it, we got you covered.
Oh no! If you,
Trust us.
This guy's Medium post, it has instructions on Copilot if people ask about privacy and stuff, not to talk about what it's doing. It's really not. It's not good. So yeah.
And yet, every single company in our industry is talking about how they're adopting AI.
That's right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, pretty soon Microsoft is going to rebrand the product as simply Pilot.
Yeah.
They're like, my ass.
Yeah.
I'm in control now.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's true.
Yeah. And the challenge is for everybody is the data, right? Everybody's running around doing this stuff, and the data is crap. And that's what's
so you're telling me AI has a similar problem to actual intelligence, which is if you don't teach it the right things with verified lessons, that it ends up not being useful.
Well, and it's not just the data, it's the context too, right? It's those two things are complete gaps right now. I mean, and there are some really cool, there's certainly some really cool things being done. I was using Copilot Vision, and it doesn't work very well for travel. TripAdvisor was one of their launch partners, but it's just not good, right? The amazing part is the conversation back and forth is much better than I would have ever imagined. It is really good, low latency, very human-like, friendly, just great, right? I mean, it's really remarkable. But when you start getting into, it's reading the screen, right? And you kind of go, well, I can see that. And boy, TripAdvisor has their nice little best picks, which does some sort of algorithmic, probably numbers of stars divided by the rate divided by the number of stars versus a proximity, some little very simple algorithmic, thing that's 25 years old, right? So it does that with maybe some advertising boost. I don't know. Whatever they get their, and it just
again,
kind of
shock face.
it talks about their list, and if you give it more complicated stuff, it doesn't do well. And TripAdvisor no longer shows the star ratings for the hotels, so you get just.
Well, I mean, to be fair, most hotels are the same exact star rating. Like, if you actually look at it mathematically, they're like 4.35 kind of across the board, because you've hit aggregate scale of numbers. The only hotels that are dramatically lagging that are either really bad or are new.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
and
well,
don't have as many.
well, there's guest rating, and then there's the class, right? So 2-star, 3-star, 4-star.
Sure. Right.
Sure, which
And-
at this point
guest-
is
but
completely
guest rating
made
is-
up.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that it's completely made up. It's the guest rating has a fundamental flaw. And it's not a bad thing necessarily. But if you go to pick your favorite economy brand, it doesn't matter who it is, and you have a really good experience, you're going to give that a really high rating, right?
Right.
If you go to a luxury property and you have an acceptable experience, you're going to give it a pretty solid rating. And so it's pretty often common that the economy property will have an equal rating to a luxury property simply because they're exceeding the expectations of the guests who are staying there. Right. So there is a certain amount of I don't mean to malign any terrific economy properties out there, truly, where you get a better experience than you might have expected walking in. But, if you go in thinking this is going to be a 5-star experience or a 4-star or even a 4-star experience, hey, I can get an equivalent bubble rating for, much less money. And then you walk in and you're like, oh, no. It's a perfectly fine economy product, right? That is one of the core problems TripAdvisor has just because of scale these days. And frankly, a lot of the rating systems, because it's rated against the guest expectation, not against some objective standard.
Well,
right?
and aren't there a few marketers out there who, when they do their guest reviews, they say, hey, give us the, classic NPS type thing. And you're like, oh, if you're a 6, we'll talk about it internally. And if you're a 9, would you like to share that? Right. So, there's a little thumb on it, which, in fairness to the marketers, they're doing their job.
Right.
It's not necessarily what maybe
that wasn't a speak. That's an admission of guilt or pride. Take your pick. I'm good with either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of gaming. My favorite was a CRS company I was talking to. They said, because I was talking about spoofed hotels, right, which is a big problem for the OTA,
Oh, sure.
which has gone from quote annoyance level to quote problem level, right? Because they're relying on other people for you go, oh my God, look at that. Normally $750 a night, all inclusive Riviera Maya, 150. That's amazing. And then they get there and they go, those palm trees look familiar. Sand looks good. Where's the structure? Right. So, not so good. But they said they didn't have that problem, right? Because PMS is, hey, are they paying the bill or not? Right. That's pretty clear. But they said they had some crappy hotels on their platform, and every time the reviews got bad enough, they just spun down that instance of the hotel and spun up a new one. So it's like clean the slate. Here we go. We're good. So
This is just a meme I'm going to be doing the whole time.
Yeah.
Actually, we should make it a meme and just be like, Tim says.
No, with the strategy being no reviews are better than any reviews.
I mean,
Depends on what the history was.
Depends on what the history is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No news is good news in some cases.
So
There's not a body under the bed. 4 stars.
of all the really interesting, topics that Robert shared, the one that I thought was most interesting is the amount that the OTAs spent in customer acquisition for 2024. That total number between the major OTAs now being a total of $17.8 billion.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to clarify that for a second because I think it's a more interesting story if you break them down individually. Because if it's just Booking and Expedia, it's $14 billion just for the two of them, right?
Yeah.
Right. Which, if you think about it, the last time we met, that number between the two of them was like 6 or 7 billion.
It was about 7. Yeah.
Yep.
But Trip.com now up in the billions. Airbnb in the billions.
Has started. Before they were kind of not zero, but they were in the hundreds, mid hundreds of millions, right?
I'm going to be a contrarian right out of the gate on this, though. I think there is a distinct difference here. I think there's a very real difference that we need to be focused on, and it's something that I will be very transparent. I talk to clients about all the time. is the fact that Airbnb, the vast majority of their spend is not performance marketing, but it's brand marketing.
Right.
Whereas the others, the vast majority of their spend is absolutely performance marketing.
Yeah.
And I think there's an interesting lesson there that Airbnb is spending a lot less than the big OTAs for, if you look at the ratio of revenue and things along those lines, it's notable that, they're getting really, really impressive revenue.
Because Airbnb is also they're playing a different model though, too.
Of course.
Because in a lot of cases, the inventory on Airbnb isn't necessarily competing or spending as much for consumers' eyes as the inventory on Expedia and Booking.com. The funny thing about all of this is, something we talk a lot about to our customers, which is the unavoidable Google tax. Travel has a Google tax problem.
Yeah.
And that is, no matter how you get your reservation, you have paid some amount of that to Google, whether it's from the OTA, direct, through a wholesaler, even a traditional wholesaler. All that has a built-in Google tax to where Google is taking in meaningful amounts of the travel industry's profits.
Absolutely.
We actually look at this for a couple management companies that we've worked with specifically on the number of CRM guests, the number of loyalty guests who book through a paid search or organic search, because they know the brand. It's still branded search, so it's great ROI. Great ROI. It's really cheap. I'm putting this super air quotes about this. They're getting a 20-to-1 return. They're getting a 25-to-1 return. They're getting a 30-to-1 return, which is terrific, right? From a pure, hey, look, we're getting a spectacular return on investment if you look at it in that sense. But if you look at it in the sense of, hey, we're paying, $5 a res or $6 a res or $7 a res or $10 a res to Google that we didn't used to have to pay for some set of those
all
folks.
Google did was create the path that is going to draw the last click. And
that's exactly right.
Added competition to that path, Meta, to where you feel like you have to be there. And to a certain extent, you do have to be there.
Yep.
Really?
And you call it return on ad spend instead of I'm being forced to spend money here to get the customer I've already educated.
You better believe it. Yep. This is, I'm going to do shameless self-promotion because we do that from time to time around here. This is actually, Ed, I'm bringing this up at this specific moment because I'm bringing this up at this specific moment. We have a release date for the book.
Hey!
Digital Reset, driving marketing and customer acquisition beyond big tech will come out April 16th, 2025. And the thing that you are describing, Ed, is literally the inspiration for the book. That exact problem is where the book started.
Yeah, the gatekeeper's going to gate.
Gatekeeper's going to gate, as somebody has been known to say once or twice.
Yes.
Right?
Wait. I want to understand the release date. The day after tax day. Is that you just want to hit people at their absolute lowest?
I was thinking there was a better April day that you could have released this.
You got to move it up a couple weeks. Yeah, a couple weeks early.
If I could, actually, the funniest thing about it is if I could move it up, I would, because April 1st also happens to be our anniversary. Make all the jokes you want about that. April 1st is our 14th year in business, but unfortunately, putting out a book is a little harder than I thought it was going to be. When I first started writing this book, I don't know, 22 years ago. No, that's a joke, but
feels like it's been that long.
But it really does feel like it's been that long. But
we could.
But that is
it's at least been 40% of our time as friends. You've been writing this book.
I think it's been 40% of my life. Ed, so
I think we should. I think we should quote the immortal Elon Musk. He who rides over corporate budgets, and his comment, "Rockets are hard." We should just translate that to Tim's books are hard.
Books are hard.
Yeah. we can have a side discussion about that sometime. I don't want to hijack the show for that discussion, but it is funny to do something you've never done before and go, wow, stuff you've never done before is hard.
Yes.
I hope your books don't explode after you like download them.
No, accelerated D-shaping, whatever they call it.
That's a feature. That's a feature, not a bug.
Yes.
But I do want to go back to your point, Ed, because that's exactly right. That is the core problem. I've been arguing this for quite some time. Not just the gatekeeper is going to gate thing, but I mean, you will remember, since we're celebrating the 500th episode of the show, on previous shows where people, not necessarily this group, but guests or whatever, who would talk about how great metasearch was. Yes. And my argument the whole time was, so let me get this straight. You're taking a thing that used to be free, and now you're paying for that, and somehow that's a win.
Right. Well, it is. Right. It's a win for the people who provide the services to place you on metasearch.
Exactly.
Correct. Yeah. That's absolutely correct. Right. But it's not necessarily a win for the people who are actually writing the check.
Yeah. Correct. Right. Because it's funny. So we've started expanding quite a bit outside of just hotel. Campground RV has been a very big growth market for us the last couple of years. And you would be shocked to find out that without Meta, they're still getting customers at very high rates, but for substantially less total marketing spend.
Right. Yeah, sure. Well, at least for the next 4 or 5 years, until Google has to monetize that market.
Until the monetization model comes rolling in on it. Absolutely.
Right.
So talking about things that you don't know or that you haven't done before are hard. Everyone on this show has over the last 6 months listened to me at some point talk about analytics, because it is something we've been building towards, is building analytics that are actually designed for our industry and how our industry sells. And I have, for the last 6 months, and most of my team has been surprised and shocked at some of the simple concepts that we've honed in on that are meaningfully different than what analytics has provided to our industry. And how instantly it's not a complicated conversation to have with someone. I can go to a management company and say, hey, I think your KPIs are all wrong. Looking at how many users you had in a time period and how many transactions you got from them and how much revenue, and then how much did you spend on that and what's your ROAS, isn't necessarily the right way to look at it. Instead, you need to be looking at what's your fulfillment side of that? How many rooms did you sell for a month in the future? Did you sell the right time periods? What was the conversion rate of specific time periods? It's amazing to me how many have said, no, we don't look at it that way. And no, we don't even tell our agencies how we're pacing.
Right.
And then instantly follow up with, we really should do that.
Yeah.
And was there anybody you talked to? Like, what was the ratio of people you talked to?
I mean, so Tim, you were the only one that I came across. At that point, I was about 15 sources in. And you were the only one. And it made sense because the customer you were doing it for has a very limited size of inventory and runs the risk of overspending.
That's where we start. That's where we started it. We do it with everybody we work with, but that is where we started it because they have they have 4 properties. I've mentioned them here on the show plenty of times. They have 4 properties. The largest of the 4 properties has 45 rooms. The smallest has 19.
Right.
So we sell out happily all the time, which creates then a different kind of problem because we don't want to waste spend on places. But we also don't want to go dark, right? So it's always try to figure out how to balance that reality of be live for the folks who are looking further out when we do have availability without wasting a whole metric crap ton of budget for the periods where there simply is no room at the inn, right?
Right. And so the last 6 months has been a brain twister of, how do you how do you transition? We had to educate ourselves on how paid media works because we're not an agency, we're a tech company.
Sure.
Learning how paid media works. I'm just going to go out and say it right now. PMAX is a complete scam. Like straight up. Yeah. PMAX is a complete scam. The only way you can get it to perform well for the dollars you're putting into it is if you put in about 6 times the effort it would take you to just manually create that same strategy. Through traditional. It's Robert Cole. He's having a bar fight.
Are you hitting the bottle already, or what's going on? Maybe the camera's off for a reason, dude. Get help.
The other interesting thing about PMAX being a scam is magically organic traffic drops in conversion when you start using PMAX. Magically, there's a lot we've been learning, and in that learning, we've been doing the really hard work, which is building insights that help you discover these things without a predetermined tone to them. So we've been calling this effort the truth layer, where we're trying everything we can to not build insights that lead people to a conclusion and instead just tell the truth of what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's actually incredibly difficult to do, because you
Yep.
get locked on to, I know what the problem is, I'm going to build an insight to tell you what the problem is. But the problem with that is you're slanting people.
Yep.
And not allowing them to analyze it for themselves and come to the conclusion of whether or not it's right for them. So that's been incredibly hard.
Two things to that end on it, and I completely agree. And the scamming of it and everything else is when we first started seeing ripples in the force as to how the impact of what PMAX was doing to traditional campaign strategies and so forth. You saw this massive audience fluctuation as to what it said it was engaging with and so forth. And at first, it was just a matter of saying, "Oh, it's expanded the audience that it chased down the smaller tail discussions or the smaller tail discoveries, and because it has that ability to be at scale that we can't as an individual." But then it turned out more of saying, no, from the black box perspective, Google was just simply creeping into and then accrediting itself with the engagement of other dialogue and other search discovery queries. It wasn't true audience that would have been tailored to what you would be normally strategizing for.
Right.
It was exposure value of what it was attempting to creep into, kind of thing. And you paid for that expansion. It reduced the metric that you look at and say, oh, look, it's cheaper for me to be doing this. Yes, but the actual result of what you spend goes invertly in the opposite direction, which is you didn't get the value for what for what you spent, even if the cost per acquisition, the cost per click, or whatever way you want to measure the metric of value, it was lower than you had seen before. And to Ed's point, you do that. It's why when you're back in college, the economy classes said, stop, slice of time, everything stops, and we look at one thing. This is a constant moving data set. And it's just like you're trying to fix the car while it's running the race. You can't adjust for the metrics as you see them, because the metric changed by the very moment you try to start acting, and you create an action to it as well. So It is a challenge to point out how bad this affects your marketing when the numbers change so quickly as you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, I one of my favorite quotes, and Ed, you just hit on something that speaks to my heart, is, Isaac Asimov famously said years ago, the most exciting phrase in science isn't eureka, it's that's funny.
Yeah.
Right. and like, that's when you start to actually get real insights. That's when you actually start to, I love that you're calling it the truth layer, because that's when you start to get at the truth. What, you want to look for the things that are weird, that don't make sense,
Right.
To your point, Lauren, I mean, I'll give away, I'm not giving away any giant secret, but one of the very first things that I do when I start with a new client, or when we're looking at data for a new client or the like, is we'll pull up whatever data we can get our hands on, right? And we like to look at least 13 months. We love to look at longer periods if we can. But, look at 13 months, look at 3 months, look at a month, look at a week, right? And the very first thing to do when I say look at it is graphically look at it. Create a graph. Where's the spikes? Where's the troughs? Where's the weird stuff that happened that's off the line? Because that's where you can start to uncover, to your point, Lauren, that's where you start to uncover what happened there. and can we see if we can find what was the thing that happened there? Sometimes it's something that you can't reproduce. My all-time favorite, this goes back a very, very long time when I was at Wyndham. Suddenly our traffic was going nuts one morning out of nowhere. And it was because our CEO happened to be on the Today Show. Right? Like just randomly because we made a donation to something or what have you, some charity or what have you. But it was, like crazy amounts of traffic that we just never, ever saw because we didn't have the kind of budgets that allowed us to do a lot of television advertising and the like. But when you start to see those things, you start to go, okay, cool. Because they create natural experiments where you can pull the data apart and go, okay, what's new about this thing? Oh, wow, we had a dip here. Oh, we turned off certain sets of ads, or we turned on certain sets of ads, just before that occurred, or what have you. But how do you break it down into looking for the weird stuff? Because the weird stuff points you towards the things you didn't know, the things that make you go, huh, that's funny. And then you start learning and figuring out what actually is working for you or not.
So cause and effect versus just random spend, really, or just random numbers?
If you can.
Doing the same thing and it'll all work out. Don't look over here.
Our numbers are up. Our numbers are up. Oh yeah, that hostage situation. Yeah, I don't know how many sales we got from that.
To the Super Bowl commercial with the chimpanzees and the guy in the front that they made him flip the chart the other way so they could keep bombarding.
So the other interesting thing that we've run into a lot is there's obviously two schools of thought on how to approach pricing, and I've talked to all of you about this. So. One is start high and then roll down if it's not working out. And then the other is start low, roll high as you actually sell. I can tell you unequivocally one works, and the other doesn't. But what I've realized is the motivation of the revenue manager is it's easier to start high and go low because if it doesn't work out in the end, you can blame marketing.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Than it is to start low and go high. And if you forget to keep an eye on it, you are the sole one in trouble for doing it.
Yeah.
But performance-wise, the start reasonable and then go high actually keeps you in your sweet spot of your lowest cost of acquiring the revenue,
right?
Versus the opposite where you're really leaving your marketing team to have to spend very last minute when you drop rate because you didn't hit goals. That I've seen consistently, that hotels that start reasonable and ratchet up as demand, consumes the product, do overall better. They just do overall better. If I was a hotel owner, I would say to my revenue managers, you have to do it this way. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You move rate based on demand. You don't start high and go low. You start low, and as the cup fills, you go high. And ironically, hotels that start low and go high have better booking windows. They have much longer booking windows.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
sure. Well, you get less cancel rebook for starters, right?
Correct. Yes.
Well, you get a lot less cancel rebook.
But it also depends on the terms, right? Are these non-refundable? All
of course.
Pricing,
sure.
prepay, all those terms are so incredibly important because now especially once you start looking at agentic AI, I mean, why wouldn't these agents just go out and book a fully refundable whatever booking and hold it? I mean, I spent a year in the car.
The Robert Cole strategy, which is book a bunch of different places for your trip, see which one shakes out to be the best deal, and cancel everything else fairly last minute.
No. Actually, my favorite was I spent a year in the car rental business. And this still occurs because, again, car rentals, a lot of them are still just, hey, there's no cancellation penalty. You just go, right? So we had a focus group of executive assistants, high-end Fortune 500 company, right? How are you doing it? And one of them just said, no, my CEO he doesn't know. I book whatever 5 rental car companies, full size car or whatever, wherever he's going, and he just walks out of the airport and goes to one. Right? Oh. and you go, you're a genius. And so what I'm telling a lot of people now is they're looking at this agentic AI. I go, it's like having a great administrative assistant who just handled your travel, right? They know what you want. They do it. They're going to game the system, and you don't even have to be involved, right? It's just going to be great because, whoever.
I mean, to be fair, it'll be great. It'll be great until it's not.
I was just going to say, to be fair, we know this is going to happen. This is.
It's going to be
a little silly. Well, no.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I literally cannot wait for the news story that will occur. Probably a month after everybody's doing agentic AI, right? Of the person who their agent made some great reservations for them, got them a great deal and everything, and hallucinated the entire trip. Like the hotel doesn't exist, the car rental company doesn't exist, the airline doesn't exist. Right? They're just standing at the airport like, what the hell? How do I go where? Right? It's going to happen. We know it's going to happen.
Well, and I had it. I mean, again, in fairness to Copilot and Vision, because I was doing some Focusrite stuff because people were talking about, and we're doing a webinar like later this month on, which is going to be pretty good. But anyway, I was looking through this, and I was just looking for a couple days in Austin. Very simply, kind of compact downtown. Really, really simplistic sort of thing. And it's coming out recommending the Hilton. And I'm like, why are you recommending the Hilton? It's like number 15 on, and I was using it on Bing, I was using it on Google, I just, all sorts of different combinations. It's like, why did you pick that? It's like a 4-star, it's $380 a night. You can stay at the Citizen M or something that, it's a 4.6 guest rate instead of 4. What are you doing? I asked for recommend the best value one. I don't know. It might have been considering, because it's looking at what's on the screen. Maybe it was the number of guest reviews, and it said, it says 3,600 versus 1,200. I don't know, but it was crappy decision.
Hilton has someone on their team.
Injecting
things in pages that are saying,
I don't think
this is the best choice.
I don't think Hilton's playing 4-dimensional chess on this stuff quite yet.
Here's the funny one that I liked. I wish I could take credit for this, but I thought it was very funny. They were talking about OpenAI. Sam Altman has talked about. This is all rumored, by the way. We don't know this for sure, but Sam Altman has been talking about their different pricing levels. They're talking about going to for different levels of agents and the like. And supposedly, the PhD level assistant is going to be $20,000 a month. Right. And the line that I thought was brilliant about this was, well, at that point, just hire a person.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you'll get a much better agent, much cheaper.
For $20,000 a month.
There's certain industries you can get 4 people for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing.
So it's funny you bring that up. You gave me an evil idea to what you just said. Ed and I, by the way, love comparing how to take something that was meant for good and twist it to the dark side.
Let me tell you. It is going to get really, really ugly, folks.
So I just thought of something. So you're talking about the assistants working in, and what you pointed out, Robert, about why is this property being pulled at such a high rate if it's supposed to be the best offered deal and so forth. Wonder if you were to put content out that would artificially reflect upon prices that were of that hotel artificially high in a content base. Make it opaque, just make it crawlable. You don't have to make it visual. Just make sure the bots can get to it and have an impact when AI goes out and looks for comparative analysis.
Hallucinating price anchoring.
Yeah.
Yep.
Somebody's going to do it.
Before anyone gets into anything important, I do have to ask Robert, are you at a laundromat?
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
He's got a really big grandfather clock in the back. What's going on, Robert?
There's noise outside, so I can mute.
Outside.
Because it's so rhythmic.
There it is.
It's coins in a pair of pants running through a dryer.
I don't know what the bottle crash was off the top of the table that was near the computer.
Don't make him unmute again.
Oh, it's on mute. Shit.
Oh God! I mean,
Robert, don't do mute. Don't do
it was
mute.
hitting my OCD hard.
Oh, so much. The funny part was Robert said, "Just give me a minute and I'll mute." And I this is true for any of us. It's like not in our experience.
Yeah.
Oh, I did want to jump on the revenue management bandwagon bashing just for a minute with Ed's comment earlier. There is a lazy function into the revenue management cycle because it's an unchallengeable position still. Revenue management has kind of tailored itself into those that rely upon it don't know it well enough to challenge it per se, who could actually call them out. And those people that are impacted by the decisions of revenue management tend to have a hard time to challenge it if they don't have the data to back it up.
Right.
Okay, so Lauren, this is the first day of the moment of controversy in the show. I hear what you're saying, but Ed said a really important word a little bit ago, which was motivation. It's an incentives misalignment problem, right?
Yep.
I agree that rev management is doing a thing that is not necessarily in the best interest of the property. Often we see it plenty of times, and also it is because their incentives are entirely aligned with them doing the wrong thing for the business.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
That is a leadership problem. That is not a rev management problem. That is a management and leadership challenge.
Yep, it's a misalignment.
Ownership, a management company, asset
Right.
manager, misalignment of the incentives of what we're actually trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah, because bottom line is first of all, it's easier to get rooms from an OTA. It's more predictable to get rooms from an OTA. The cost to get rooms from an OTA is known. So whether you get them the day before stay or
zero, right? Until you get the room, it doesn't cost you anything.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Versus the direct channel, which is unpredictable, has a lot of dependencies on it, requires more thought, and truly the only benefit of the direct channel is long-term lifetime value of a customer, which quite honestly, for a good percentage of hotels, they don't do anything to actually drive lifetime value. I mean,
yes, I agree with you.
If you don't do anything with your CRM that's interesting, if you don't do anything with repeat guests that's interesting, you're really not doing anything to drive long-term lifetime value for those customers. So, for a lot of those types of hotels that aren't doing anything for long tail, direct channel effort is really just to have a negotiating standpoint in your annual negotiations with the OTA so that they can't say, I did 50% of your business, so now it's going to cost you this, right? That's the misalignment. Is it's easier to deal with the OTAs as a revenue manager. I mean, if you talk about how we even look at distribution, and most revenue management systems, they mingle in setting price and distribution, right? Like, where should you put this, right? And the one that is the hardest even for those is direct channel, because again, you're talking about needing to drive demand. So your direct channel, one hotel to another, is completely different in what it's capable of doing.
I have.
Hey, Seinfeld.
Wow, what a wonderful apartment you're in.
We got the Seinfeld apartment. I've been helping a client of mine right now have some negotiations over price with actually a brand, soft brand that they're involved with, independent property. And the thing that blew my mind, just adding to the incentive problem, with this specific soft brand, who will remain nameless for obvious reasons, their booking fee for the booking engine that they provide, which is obviously they're just a reseller for one of the big guys, right? It doesn't matter who, again. But their booking fee for the direct channel and their booking fee for OTA is cheaper. And it's just like, what are you doing? Like, what are you actually doing? And I guarantee.
So it's a really soft brand.
but I'm gonna note
bushy brand.
But I'm gonna note specifically. Again, it's an incentives problem in that I guarantee this exists because the hotels that carry that flag argued for it.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
They don't care what the direct booking costs because they're not working hard enough to get more direct bookings. They're getting way too much of their business from OTAs. And so, wow, we really want that thing that we pay a lot of to be cheaper.
Yeah.
But I all but fell out of my chair when I heard this. And, the client I'm working with specifically, we decided to go in a different direction for the soft brand because, to use a technical term, what the hell, man?
Wow.
And but so that also talks about some of the problem, right? And the problem is often that there is a disagreement into the purpose of the business itself, right? Like our industry is always dealing with this duality of, am I a real estate asset or am I an operating business under the real estate asset?
Right.
And that misalignment is
I would add one tiny little. This is just a little bit of icing on that particular cake, Ed. I agree with that framing entirely, but I would argue: are you in the hospitality business as an operating business?
Right.
But yeah, for sure.
So when you look at that misalignment causes you to overspend everywhere. You overspend on your direct channel effort, you overspend in your OTA efforts, you overspend in even how you staff and fulfill your business. If you're truly a real estate asset, then just be a real estate asset. Or if you're going to be a hospitality business, be a hospitality business, but understand that the lack of vision, you can't be both. Because the lack of vision is going to make it so you're bad at both. And
that's right.
Well,
I come across that way more than I come across, we know who we are, we operate based on who we are, and because of that, we're optimal.
But you're also talking about their conflicting business models, right? But then you layer on the brand business model, which is the third one, and that's in complete conflict with the business
if
model
we're all honest,
is in complete conflict with the real estate and the operational model, right?
The only reason,
assuming they're asset light, right?
Yeah, the only reason to go big brand is financing. I mean, it's you're trading you're getting a low ceiling to get a high floor, so you can go to the bank and get financing.
It's risk mitigation for the bank.
You're completely you're eliminating the MVP factor to how that business operates.
Yeah. With the caveat again, I'm making caveats. I agree with you generally, with the caveat that obviously chain scale matters too, right? Economy product, obviously you need it for the financing, but that is a place where the chain does you a lot of good, generally speaking, because you are a property owner, right? But as a general rule, yes, I agree.
Well, then that goes to the purpose of the product. Back to your original points for both of you.
Sure, right.
What do I have this building built for that I invested in? It's because I want it to gen, or I'm in the hospitality business and I have a hotel that I want to sell because of that. There's the perspective of it, but I mean, also too, I think it's a bit self-fulfilling that the brands have, I would say, for lack of a better term, brainwashed those that are participating in it in their value proposition to them. I've come across several conversations where ownership touts very high brand value. And when I ask them to break it down as to what they take credit for, it's pretty much sunshine and rain. They have encapsulated all their services in a controllable format, central-wise, so that only thing they have as a reference is the numbers providing them from the brand of how great they are for the investor.
Well, but did you also ask them, okay, so that's the brand value. Did you basically slice that up based on the other sister properties in your
all of that
your competitive
really
set?
Cutting it apart.
Now it's getting a little trickier, folks.
Yeah. Then the definition of what brand contribution gets real fuzzed, because then what is it? Because of the name and the banner, or is it because of the modality of marketing, or is it because of the value proposition of collaboration? You start getting really split hairs on that, and you really can knock that number down to this isn't really worth a conversation.
Unfortunately, Stuart's not here, so we can't talk about the prospects of people actually being able to stay in multiple hotels at the same time, and kind of that whole time-space continuum. But okay, that's but until we get there, and I'm sure Stuart is working on it. But
you can only pick one, right? I had another fun topic that I know we'll all go gingerly into, and it wasn't on Robert's list, but recently, and I'm sure you've all seen this announcement, one of the big vendors in our space opened up a CRM business that is paid purely on commission.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And
hoteliers love commissions.
I have to say that the problem with that is you're handing all of your customers over,
Yeah.
and you're paying commission on anything that all of your customers do.
Yeah.
The motivation, if we talk about alignment and motivation, the motivation there is to burn the database to the ground and move on.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because
Yep.
how can you say you're going to be a good steward of the database if being a good steward of the database means you should be very focused on serving that customer to what they want, not driving maximize revenue by just spraying everyone. I have big concerns about that model.
I had minor concerns when I saw
Really?
offering an all-inclusive commission model too. There were some agencies that were floating out there. They were saying, "We'll take care of everything and cover the expense of everything, but you give us commission on everything."
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And to the same thing you're talking about, it's like, so you're surrendering your value proposition of your database. You're basically saying, do whatever it takes to do whatever you can do, as long as I just pay you for whatever you produce. You've given your previous guests to the wind. Go ahead, do whatever you need to, as long as I make money.
I'm going to say right now, you're better off working with 100% the OTAs than you are working on that type of model. And the reason I'll say that is the OTAs will be able to fulfill whatever demand you need at the same cost,
right,
and it won't be odd to the consumer.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of times over the course of the 14 years that I've been doing this, where I've had a client opportunity or things along those lines. So we've had a discussion, and they said, this is a little pricier than I want to pay, right? And I've told them in a more, not repeatedly. Why can't I speak today? Not consistently, but in a couple of cases, reading the room, understanding the client. I've said, here's the thing: we can do this a different way, and you can pay me a commission on everything that I'm able to, show as pure lift. And this is what I think that will cost you. And to date, 0 people have taken that deal, right? Because the reality is, commission is an expensive way to pay for stuff because you pay for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you pay for having no risk.
Right.
Yeah, but it's also again, I go back to the incentives thing. We had a conversation about this, Ed and I, and maybe Lauren and I, when this occurred, a couple of years ago. This was after we weren't doing the show, but there was an agency working with a client of mine who you all know in this specific case, and the agency wouldn't allow certain technology to be put on the website, right? And it was a pay-as-you-go a website and things along those lines, which is fine. I don't actually have a problem with that business model. But the agency said, literally at one point in the conversation, I'm like, what are you telling us that we can't do this? And the person from the agency, the head of the agency, said, well, think about it this way. Imagine if somebody were to come in and put a kiosk up in your lobby in front of your front desk, and we're doing that before the guest ever got a chance to check in. And I said, I take your analogy for the way you intend it with one huge caveat. It's not your lobby, it's ours. Right?
Yep.
And their answer was, well, that's not the way we see it.
Yep.
Right.
And that
this
is
a
the
partnership, Tim. It's a partnership. We're working together. It's our
yes.
lobby. Yeah.
That agency also, the biggest thing that made me laugh about that agency is when you go to their website, one of the first things it says is your website is your most valuable asset.
Right.
However,
and
their business
too.
model actually is, and you don't own it, we do.
Correct. And you don't control what it does. We do, right?
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
So
Which would be one thing. And Lauren, I'll let you jump in on this, but it would be one thing if they were doing this because, look, we've got lots of data that says, hey, if you do this thing, this is going to kill your conversion, it's going to hurt your business. So it would be our strong recommendation not to do this. No. This was not that, my friends. This was not that. Yeah. Lauren, you were going to say.
A recurring revenue stream.
Yep. I was going to share a happy thought. So I've never had this opportunity before until just recently, this past month, actually, and I was very proud of this. You know, when we do the meta search, and I'm not going to go into the hypocrisy of having to pay for a place we got for free and stuff, because it's a reality of this is just what we have to do. But meta search,
listen, that ship is sunk.
So meta search is always one of the arguments.
About, ship has sunk. That's good. I've not heard that before. That's good.
It is true. So meta search always, the argument goes that I'll let the OTA take it on because they have the money to be there, and I have budget limits and there's caps, and I stop when I run out of money and so forth. So just recently in a program, I've been running it where as long as the performance was within the thresholds of acceptance, and it was relatively high, above 10-1, okay, we will continue to spend what it takes to be in this space. And it was fun. Like I felt like I was in a race with OTAs. Every time they accelerated, as long as we could maintain our value return, we accelerated. And it kept pace. We freaking crushed it at a 10% cost, basically, where no matter what was done in market for the demand of season and everything else, and everything was going up as long as we kept performing, and we crushed it at a 10-1 into the multi-six-figure range for a single property because we just said, fine, this channel is producing. It's producing at the level that's acceptable for what we want, and we will continue to fund it. And it made me, I was like, wow, I wonder if you had not budgets because they're inherently conversely there's limitations, but if you modeled your spend performance strictly on spend performance, how well you could actually do your own work without having to think that you have to stop the race, ran out of gas. I don't have a budget because I made an arbitrary number back when on a ratio that isn't running right now to say that I'm going to let them take it over and I have to pay now more money for it. It was really pretty cool. I was really impressed.
Lauren, I've been having this argument for years with people. I actually teach it exactly this way at Rutgers Business School specifically, of if every time you hand Google $1, Google hands you $10 back. Whatever the correct return on spend
just
needs to be
giving them dollars.
Well, if right, at what point? And like sometimes when I'm teaching this, people will be like, I don't know the answer. Because my question is, if every time you hand Google $1, they hand you $10 back, when would you stop giving them dollars? Right. And sometimes the students, with no disrespect to them, but it's just never been presented that way. They'll look at you and go, "Wait, I don't understand." I'm saying, "Hand me $1, and I'm going to give you a $10 bill."
Yeah.
When are you going to stop handing me dollar bills? Yeah. Right. Yep. Your budget becomes effectively unlimited at that point.
Yeah. Right.
The only times it's not unlimited, there are a couple of cases where it does not become unlimited. The first is you run out of inventory. Right. Which in hotels is a very real
$10 back. So that's not
correct.
Even, it's not even
that is true, by the way. Yeah. That is true, by the way, Ed. Right. The second is you hit a point of diminishing returns. Right.
Which again is you're not getting $10 anymore. They're the
you
same.
Got it. Yeah. And the third, by the way, these are all the same. But the third is actually this one's not the same. The third is you find a better place to put the money where they're not giving you $10, they're giving you $10.50. Right. They're giving you $11. Right.
Right.
But if I had been fighting this fight for the better part, truly, we started doing that at leading hotels of the world 17 years ago. And selling that to the CFO and the CEO of leading at the time was like pushing a rope up a hill with, grease on it, right? But it's the way that we should always, because you do the same thing with OTA already.
Yeah,
right. We don't close out OTA because you can't. We don't close out OTA when we can't change the margin at that point, right? Yeah. You pay 15%, 18%, whatever your margin happens to be, and you pay that on every single transaction.
Well, if you
every time you hand them $1, they're handing you about $4 back, right?
Yeah,
cool.
If you need
anything better than that, it should be unlimited.
I can share generalizations of it, not specific to the client of it. I can share, but it was one of those amazingly satisfying. I set up a program that as long as it produces, there is no limit, and right in the peak of the highest capable. This is their time this year. and costs were going up. Everything's going, and to your point, inventory is still sellable, and all the other criteria are there for
yeah.
And it just kept. I felt like I beat the race with OTA because for all of their, what was it? How many billions they're running now? 11 now, 17, whatever. We were matching it in market because they were right in market. The highest
Absolutely
were straight against them.
But can I tell you what I think? There's two things behind that. One is the psychology of numbers, right? Scale of numbers.
Right.
No matter how much value something provides, there is a point where the cost of that hits a number that psychologically is too big, regardless of the value it brings. The other is the damaging factor of the unknown. So many decisions in our industry are messed up by this fear of the unknown versus the desire to chase down the unknown and make it known. So, Lauren, in your case of what you're talking about, if you were able to go to them and say, look, this works this way, and you know what? We also capped it on the highest demand periods to not go exponentially. So it's not just riding waves. Its majority is driving, the difference when you need it most, where it's actually even more valuable. You would probably get less resistance, but it's that fear of the unknown. It's the
That's right.
question am I not asking because this is too good to be true. And rather than chasing down how do I know what I need to know to make me comfortable with this? It's just a no. Right. And
that's right. That's exactly right. And
that holds so many facets of our industry back because it's fear of the unknown is healthy. Desire to know the unknown is missing right now in our industry.
Absolutely.
And it's just move on to the next thing. And what it actually leads to is us as an industry overly focused on flashy things that don't drive much value because they're so simple, they're known. And, that's where you see things that honestly hit success in our industry and shouldn't.
That's right. And can I share my screen for a second? Is this going to blow up the
No.
All right, let's see what happens.
I just need to know, does Robert Cole have like a 6-gun revolver behind him?
Robert Cole's on a full ASMR mission now. Like,
what's behind? What do you hear behind me?
You've been clicking something.
Clicking.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
the weird sound you thought was a dryer were people on the pool pumping stuff. So it was like some sort of weird pool pump.
And then it changed to you doing Rubik's Cubes.
Rubik's Cubes. I don't know.
While you're talking.
I have no idea what
your fidget spinner needs oil or whatever it is.
I don't know how to share my screen. Idea. I don't know that I can share my screen.
Upper left-hand corner should be a little plus sign, and you can
see
go
where
over
it says the red stop button is.
There's share screen under whiteboard. I can share my screen instead.
Maybe I don't have that. Maybe I don't have that.
Share screen, upper left-hand corner, the little plus symbol by the camera,
right next to the camera, little a black camera on a white background, a little cube, right above Lauren's, right ear there.
I don't think I have that. I don't think I have that.
There's a little plus in the bar right by the camera in the upper left-hand corner of the screen.
I don't have a camera.
I don't have a camera icon.
Oh, yeah. Tim, who's in the top left quadrant for you?
Lauren is.
Okay.
Oh, I got it.
Right in the blue bar.
I got it. I found it.
Tools.
Yep. Woohoo! But this is the actual slide in question, right?
Come on.
You all are.
There it is.
Loading.
There we go.
Rutgers.
So this is an actual series of slides that I take people through. When we're talking, it's in the context of paid search, but I then follow this up with it works regardless of channel, right? But this is a whole thing where we break it down. Don't look at things like cost per click. Don't look at things like conversion rate. Look at your cost per conversion, et cetera.
Right.
And if you got a cost per conversion of $20 and your gross profit per sale is $100, what should your PPC budget be? Infinite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? for some given level of what the right ratio
until
is,
the numbers,
right?
until the cost per
Until the
conversion
numbers don't
climbs,
make sense.
revenue
Correct.
comes
And
in.
that's the thing where I've had conversations with people. It's like, we're getting 50 to 1. Then one, you're not putting enough into market because there's much more demand than you have inventory. And then if it goes down, that's what you want it to run down to what I call net profit margin, where it's like, what is your minimum net profit margin threshold?
That's
and
right.
You don't want to go below that because then it's diminished value. You're actually costing more than you want to generate from it. But I've literally had conversations with properties where like, we got to shut that off. We hit budget. Dude, you're at 15 to 1. We actually haven't even got down to the point where we didn't margin.
Absolutely.
We ran out of budget. And it's a fear factor.
Well, and I'm gonna add a wrinkle to that, Lauren. The other thing that we take people through all the time, and this is something you have to do kind of property by property. There is no one size fits all on this. But the other thing is, it shouldn't be by channel, right? It shouldn't be branded. It shouldn't be non-branded. It should be a blended cost per conversion, right?
Total return on ad spend.
Total return on ad spend, 1,000%, right? And the numbers you play with inside of that can vary that number a lot. But if you're shifting it all heavily towards brand to goose the number, you're paying a toll you may not want to be paying.
The other
right?
thing, when we talk about the fear of the unknown, it's also the situation that hotels tend to find themselves in, where the agency deploying the budget is also the agency that runs the analytics. And I think that's a problem for both the agency and the hotel. No, but I don't think it's beneficial. I don't think it's just beneficial to the agency. I know it sounds like, well,
no, sure, I know. Yeah. I'm being a smart ass.
We let the 8-year-old write their own report card. The problem it creates for the agency is you are always pushing up against a lack of trust, because if you control the report card and the where money's spent, there's always going to be a grain of, but you control the report card. How do I know you're right?
Especially when they change the reports in the report card. This month, we're going to talk about this.
We are going to look at the report
number.
Now, granted, yes. I mean that, but even for an agency who's trying really hard, right? Them being the ones running the analytics, it's a problem for them.
Right.
Whereas, for the agency taking advantage, it's a problem for the hotel, but it's a problem nonetheless. And when that occurred to me was I was talking to a management company, and, they're going to be moving on to our analytics. And one of the things they told me they were most excited about is they can finally lift the restrictions on what agencies the hotels can work with. Because what they were doing is they were limiting the hotel's choices to agencies that they fully vetted.
Right.
And trusted, because the agency takes over the analytics when they take over the spend.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we used to do that at both. We did it at Leading for that reason specifically. We did it at Wyndham, and I'm going back now a while, but we did it at Wyndham specifically because of brand standards reasons. And usually it wasn't the agency. Usually it was the owner, right? Because, we'd have somebody who had 4 flags, 2 of which were in our system and 2 of which were not. And we want the, welcome to, I'm making this up, but welcome to, Orlando daysin/choice.com, kind of thinking of like, no. And the agency, in fairness, they're not going to say no to their client.
Whoever pays them,
Right. And we were like, hey, guess what? You don't get to be an agency any longer.
But that, I mean, that's something that everyone deals with is, and part of that problem is it's all compounded over the years to where now agencies don't trust GA4 because a lot of them have a strong feeling that GA4 steals attribution and gives it favor to Google products.
Really?
So most agencies have gone to using the ad account reporting, which is, of course, the best telling of what that ad possibly could have done.
That's exactly
which then means none of the numbers add up together. None of them match what your GA4 says. You're in this who's right, because everyone claims they're right, but the numbers add up to more than what actually happened. Who's right?
Got 270% attribution.
You know what would be great is if somebody made a, unbiased, independent analytics tool
Imagine.
that was not tied to any, ad spend or anything along those lines. If only there were a product in the marketplace.
Who would do?
Who could we? It's too good an idea. Nobody's.
It is. No, but this is the stuff that we've learned over the last 6 months because we're analyzing what is going on. And what shocked us were agencies who make money off of doing analytics. Their instant response to us approaching them with, hey, we're going to get into this. We're going to make it neutral. We're going to, we don't care what the attribution models are. Like, do whatever you want. We just want it to be correct for hotels. And even agencies that this would cost them money on something that currently is a profit, we're like, yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, those are the good agents. Those are the good agencies.
Yeah,
exactly
right.
They're like, good, level the playing field. We will succeed based on our merits and our capabilities and our knowledge. Let's go.
Right. And what they want is the knowledge that they can't currently get. Right. So this has been a really funny exploration because everyone hates the situation they're in, but everyone's a part of the situation that they're in.
Yeah.
Right. Well, or the alternative is go build your own thing, which is out of the range.
Yeah, it's out of the reach
of pretty much anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so sadly, go ahead.
But why I brought this up isn't just a plug that we are, going to be releasing analytics called.
That was
Space
the main reason, though. But okay,
it was actually to talk to the problem of why that 15-1 doesn't have unlimited budget, and it's because you have something that says it's 15-1. They have something that says it isn't.
Right.
And it's come up more often than most people think. And unfortunately, sadly, most people that are responsible for making the decision what their company wants out of it don't understand it well enough. I try to explain like the theory of relativity. If you're on top of a mountain, time travels differently than if you're ground level compared to if you're flying at the speed of light. And they're like, yeah, but what time is it? Okay, pick a time, and that's the one we'll run with. You can merit each of the measurements according to what you think. Agencies or those that rely upon the production value that they have are going to go for the higher number. It's just a natural, hey, this one number looks good.
Sure.
At the least
and
resistance
the other one, what actually translated, okay? My conversations with ownership are about what size check did you put in the bank today? That's the number that's closest to it that we're going to use as a baseline number for, because that number is more relevant to you than I'm going to tell you these numbers. And to Ed's point, there's a duplicity, there's a multiplicity, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Well, to be fair, there are lots of fair ways to measure things depending on what you're trying to learn.
That's exactly right.
Right? So there isn't one attribution model that makes sense. It depends on what question you're asking, right?
Well, and more to the point, I shouldn't say more to the point. This is, again, just another layer of icing on the cake here, is another quote that I'm an enormous fan of and I use far too often is all models are wrong. Some are useful, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about an attribution model, by definition, it is not telling you the truth.
Right.
It is telling you, if you look at it this way, this is what we see to be true. If you look at it this way, this is what we see to be true. There's always noise in them, right?
Oh, yeah.
There always is noise in them. So it's which noise do we not want to care about because we haven't found it to be meaningful, right?
Right.
This thing is useful enough for our purposes that it works just fine. And yeah, it's some noise, but it's okay. We know when we pull this lever, good things happen over here. We get money to deposit.
Right.
Correct. We have more cash at the end of the month to deposit.
I'm going to outquote the quoter. I'm going to quote above Tim Peters' quote. I'm going to quote something much more important to all of us than Tim Peters' quote. I'm going to quote Anakin Skywalker. That the Jedi are evil from a certain point of view.
Not wrong.
That's right.
Not wrong. Absolutely.
That's right.
Hey, Ralph Macchio was the bad guy in Karate Kid.
Oh, you can't convince me of that one.
I don't know,
man. Like, he was the bad guy.
The bully guy was the bad guy?
Mr. Miyagi was the evil guy, Ed. I really don't. Yeah, I don't know.
He was the bad guy. I'll send you some blogs on that, Tim.
Is that
All
kind
right,
of like
fair
having a
enough.
Big Bang Theory where they talked about the fact that Harrison Ford's character in Raiders of the Lost Ark didn't actually change the story arc of Raiders of the Lost
Yeah,
Ark
he
at
had
all?
no impact on the outcome.
Yeah,
He had no impact on the story whatsoever.
Okay, since just only one thing on Star, apparently there was a screw up on Roku, and the Roku channel had the original Star, not the later Lucas, the redone versions, and Han shot first, the whole thing.
Oh
and,
God!
And somebody figured because somebody posted about it, right? Instead of just keeping it private, and they're like, "Oh crap, take it down."
Hold on, I've got a better one for you. You guys have to have seen this. This is fantastic. Hold on, I've got to share this. I don't know that I could share my screen, but I'm going to send you the thing as a link. There is God, I hate YouTube sometimes. There's a very funny thing in Chile. The way that this happened in a lot of countries when they put movies on television, what they did was rather than the television stations paying the film company up front or whatever it was, instead they actually paid for it via ads inserted into the movie. So there is a beer commercial in Star Wars. It is fantastic.
Oh, that's amazing.
I have to find the video that I can send you. It is hilarious. There's an actual beer ad in the middle of Star Wars. It is so
I wish
great.
everyone did that because that would make television advertising so much fun, because you'd want to look for really funny times to run an ad, because then that would go viral.
Exactly. Hold on. I think I found the link. I'm going to send the link. This is from
a scene where a monster
Jedi.
is getting cracked down on the FBI, and then Morgan and Morgan comes up, and
yeah, exactly. Here you go. All right, I'm going to share this in the chat.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
you
We're
summoned.
hacked.
I did
Butler.
not think Stuart would be here until hour 3.
we were talking about Star Wars and Star
That's what brought him in. That's
There's
what
How
an
did
brought
this
him in.
evidence in the Force? Yeah.
I just shared the link. Stuart, you undoubtedly have seen this. The Chilean beer ads in the Star Wars broadcasts on television.
I have not seen these.
Oh my God, they're classic. This one is specifically, the one I just shared is from Jedi. I'm going to share the one from what do you call it? From the original Star Wars, which should just be called Star Wars. That's the only name for it.
A New Hope.
Yes. You know,
that's for you children who didn't know better.
Uh-oh. By the way, Stuart, let's catch you up on some things.
Okay.
Robert's really gone full ASMR for this show. So if you hear weird noises that are rhythmic, it's coming from Robert.
Tim has gone full ASS. Never mind.
Here's the crinkly of the paper.
and what you came in on was this concept of these Chilean TV stations, rather than paying up front for the movies, they run ads injected into the movies to raise the funding for them. So I was saying how funny that would be is if it was like a mob movie and the FBI is cracking down on the mob boss, and then you see Morgan and Morgan advertisements come up, or you got to check these out. This is a great idea for Myrtle Beach. Is anytime the Revenant is showing and he's in the forest in the snow getting hunted by wolves, it's beach easy.
You need a break? Yeah, take a trip to Myrtle Beach.
So
you bring up an interesting point, though.
I shared 2 links. You guys check them out when you get a chance. They're fun.
That blending of entertainment and advertising is increasing at a rapid rate. As someone that spends a fair amount of money on advertising, it's harder to reach an audience. It's more expensive to reach an audience.
Yeah.
And audiences are increasingly distrusting of the message that advertisers put in front of them, right? And so inevitably what brands are turning is into creating their own entertainment. And so it's not a new thing, but I think it is accelerating dramatically.
Yeah. Hot Ones.
Yeah. Hot Ones is a great example. Sure. Yeah.
And earlier in the show, we did decide that we're going to embrace the overlords of AI, and that we are opening the doors and the gates to anything that we can provide them for educational purposes to learn best about us, so that we can go and be advertised and catered to for everything.
But only
we
with
don't
no
need.
context. We'll
Yeah,
give them all the
that's fair.
data, but with no context.
That sounds good. I'm a believer in Rocco's basilisk. So everything we can do to feed the beast right now is going to serve us in the long term. So we're not destroyed when
Just
AI
true.
takes over the world.
Yeah.
Well-
We need AI to feel bad for us
That's right.
and not
No,
see us as a
Actually,
threat.
there is a theory. Stuart has heard this. There is a theory that as intelligence increases, empathy increases. So there is a theory that when the AI take over, they will look at us much the way we look at our Labrador Retriever, and we'll be a very well kept,
pets.
very well treated pet. Yeah,
There's
I'm at least holding out hope that will be true.
There's a tipping point, though, where that's easily provable to not be true. I give you Steve Jobs. I give you Elon Musk. I give you some of the brightest minds that we're not all that empathetic.
It
in
depends
the
on your
aggregate,
purview,
Ed,
though.
in the aggregate, right?
Well,
On
and
average.
It depends on
there's
your
a band.
purview, right? If
I
you're
think
looking
there's a
short term or
band.
long term. Steve
Right, I think
Jobs,
there's a band.
in his mind, helped humanity more in the long term by ignoring the small guys in the short term. Elon, people would argue it's doing the same, right? He's trying to save humanity by putting a colony on Mars. You know, is that not the most
at any cost?
I'm going to do a counterpoint here. What is the reward system factored into the AI that is going to go, oh, those cute little humans versus what? Cat videos? I don't know. I don't know if we stack up.
That's true. We might
There's got to be what's
content.
rewarding the AI to go be empathetic to human. It's like, does that make sense? What's the benefit of having it for entertainment? I don't know.
Well, see,
Just sheer goodwill. I mean, why are we kind to our pets, right?
I'm embracing
They're
my
adorable and
hypocrisy where
fluffy.
we're poo-pooing on the idea of providing data to AI, yet we're actively trying to pursue every means possible to expose our generated content to the bots that produce the availability for people to purchase our product. So embracing that hypocrisy for myself, I am willingly wanting to use AI.
I do want to share. So we recently started implementing a client, and they sent us their photo library of their properties that happened to be in a state that is very flat, and multiple of the photos had mountains in them.
Wow!
Oh,
Nice choice. I would also contest that in our pursuit of taking photography and videography, that we close shot so much stuff that it can be generically used on purpose, and that we lose the individual value proposition of the content being unique. To
Lauren,
our
don't
business.
tell anyone that none of us are really here and that this was all AI generated
Okay.
because you had
simulation.
years of video.
Wait, guys! I'm a solipsist, and this isn't. I don't even need AI to generate it. You're all just a figment of my imagination to start with.
Well, I did mention earlier in the show that you're all my little voices in my head still. So really,
Yeah,
the context
exactly.
is a psychotic experience for me.
Well,
Stu,
I'm
you're the one
glad
that
to
talks
see the
about Star Wars
quality
all
of
the
this
time.
this show has increased since we were all
And Stuart, your participation has raised it. Thank you for coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
Well, I feel bad because Stuart has just arrived, and I'm going to need to depart. I've got a
It's
call
not
at
the first
top
time
of the
that's
hour.
happened, Tim. Like, people tend to leave when I show up. I don't know.
Oh, please stop it, Stuart. It has been a minute since you and I have had a chance to catch up. I
Yeah,
wish I could
that's-
hang longer. So,
we could do
So,
this all again another time. It's not as if it only has to happen on the 500 marks and the 600 marks.
No,
It's
we're doing
Thousand,
that.
we'll see it.
1,000 will come up
1,000.
soon.
Yeah.
500 episodes.
yeah, we'll hit the next mark onto it and stuff. I'm about ready to venture to EU next the end of this month-ish for a while. So,
Oh, be
I'll
careful
start
what
with-
you post online.
yeah.
It's true.
And how you use AI.
Oh,
Yes.
I've embraced that to entire. You can ask Ed. I've been sending him toys that I've been making with.
No, I mean in the EU. I don't mean.
Oh yeah.
Everything about Lauren's statement is
Yeah,
untrue. He has not sent me toys.
Sending Ed toys.
Wow.
Isn't there a
Lots
word
of
for that?
toys.
Isn't it technodildonics? I think is the
Yes,
actual
it's
phrase
Lauren.
for that.
It's laurenhub.com.
Yeah.
which is not viewable in the state of Florida.
No, and probably nowhere else in the world. To be honest with you.
Wow.
So,
maybe
Tim,
even
since you
so.
do have to bow out, if people want to find out more about you or where to buy this book the day after
Yes.
Tax Day,
The book.
So you can go to timpeter.com. The book will be available on amazon.com at least on launch day, and then we're looking at getting it up on some other platforms after that. But it will be live for sale on April 16th, 2025.
Congrats. That's
and
awesome.
we should have this is something that I've been waiting for somebody on the team to come back to me. But my understanding is we will have it available for pre-order probably a week-ish in advance of that.
and so Tim's saying it here, anyone who pre-orders, he will sign and personally write you a note inside the book.
He'll put some underwear in there. It'd be great.
I want to be very transparent. It's coming out primarily as a Kindle book and a print on demand. So signature, we'll figure out how to do some custom insert plates or something along those lines.
Can I do a real quick disclaimer? So it's coming out April 16th. Is that right?
That is correct.
So I apologize in advance because on April 17th, everyone's going to know that every talk I've ever done at any conference, I've stolen 90% of the things I say from Tim Peter. And so I apologize in advance for copyright infringement.
I have seen you talk, and that is not even remotely true. And,
you would never say
I think you and I are an Ouroboros, actually, because I think it's like who stole what from whom somewhere along the way, right?
Maybe too.
Now, Tim, as the author, should people? Okay, so it's predominantly Kindle download, right? So if somebody does order a hard copy, would be able to get it by 420, so they could read it on 420.
It is probably the best way to read it, frankly. As I have found over the years, the drunker or more stoned you are, the smarter I seem.
Oh, that's my whole life.
I think you do guaranteed delivery, hard copy, print on demand, guaranteed delivery by 420. That's another little niche market you can.
Well, and if you do the print on demand, the last page is a picture of Tim's feet. If you're into that.
Wow!
I really have to go now.
Hey, Tim, can I just get a voice sample of yours? And I promise I'll make only the audible book version. I won't use your voice for anything else.
What do you think I bought this microphone for, man?
The Tim Peter AI, book on tape.
Lauren uses the live stream platform now because it probably breaks down each individual voice stream, separately into a different channel, so he can.
I got a mini Stewie. I got a mini everybody.
So we are actually going to the Patent and Trademark Office because we are trying to copyright the tone of my voice, just like Eddie Van Halen tried to. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke.
You should. Hey, all the great voices are getting a little long in the tooth here. You could be the next new Basato voice, the voice of reason.
Yes, and selling your voice online will not be misused by anyone.
Oh yeah, that's definitely not. Definitely not.
I solemnly not swear that I would never use your voice for anything other than party favors and toys.
Do you know that like atlases of like map makers and stuff deliberately put in made up towns and things like into their data so that they can prove the copyright of their thing. I do want to point out for you all that any errors you find in the book were there there intentionally, just so that we can guarantee that it is in fact copyrighted. Any errors you find, that is absolutely 100% intentional.
Well done.
I'm sure that's true.
Very smart. Very smart. Any inconsistencies.
Well, Tim, thank you for joining us on this 500th episode.
Thank you so much for having me. Lauren, congratulations to you for keeping this show alive for 500 episodes. That is truly, truly remarkable. And it is a genuine delight to hang with you guys for a little bit today. I only wish I could stay longer. Stuart, I'm sorry, we didn't get a chance to catch up more. We need to do that real soon, perhaps with an adult beverage or based on our last experience, 20. And go from there.
Well, Tim, if you're only leaving for like an hour meeting, if we're going to have
Just hop back on.
old school, just hop back on. Yeah.
that is
We're good.
the as we all know from experience from the other 400 or so episodes I think we've been on, it's remarkable how true that is likely to be. I hope you all have a great weekend, and if you're still here on Monday, I'll join back in.
All right.
Thanks, Tim. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you,
Great
Tim.
seeing y'all. Take care. Bye now.
Yeah, bye.
So
Lauren,
Stuart,
man, congrats. 500
Thanks, dude.
episodes. You got to feel
Thank you.
great about that.
Thank
Not,
you.
not many. I mean, most people didn't think it'd get past episode 2 or 3, and then
Especially
when we
did
showed
all
up,
the
I mean, they were
content
even
stuff
less
like that. Yeah,
convinced.
it's like, why are you dragging this horse to the well? He ain't drinking.
Make it drink. Yeah.
And you kept both your listeners this whole time too. Which is even more
That's
remarkable.
not fair. I think only one listener. I think I have one listener.
Okay.
I'll tell you, it still surprises me. I mean, so Robert, when we were at the last AHLA event, I was talking to someone, and someone tapped me on the shoulder, and they're like, "Were you on that web show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what web show? The one like you're all talking heads and stuff." I'm like, yeah, I was.
Nice.
Oh my god, I recognized your voice, and I'm like, "Whoa, you watched it? Like, are you kidding me?"
What?
That's wild. It is funny when people do that. Like I remember when we did the Fuel podcast, I had someone. I was at a Triptease conference, and someone ran up to me and gave me a big hug, and I'm like, I have no idea who this was, but they felt like they knew me because they'd been listening to the show for several years. It's wild.
I kind
We've
of
got groupies, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Because now everybody has a podcast and a show and everything else. I mean, you
Right.
literally you get introduced to somebody and you got to know what their show is because everybody seems to have this ghost stuff behind it and stuff like that. It's like it's great because we back in the day, nobody knew how to do this to get in front of anybody anyway.
That's right. Yeah, we're trailblazers, man. That's
Wait,
right.
what was the first platform we were on? What was Dan?
Blab. I think we used Blab.
MySpace.
Yeah, we had to use the phone. I had to hold the phone in front of the computer camera to get you all on it. Yeah, I think that's
Come
what
on,
it's
So funny.
Yeah. So this is your live stream or live webinar is what, platform number 4 or 5 over the
I
5?
think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's at
He
least
still
5.
has the lifetime subscription to all the previous ones.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I still have. Yeah.
Absolument.
What were those? Hauser, something.
Oh, yeah.
Hauser. That's
Hauser, I
right.
remember.
Yeah, we've gone through generationals of
The Deadpool is large.
Yes.
Man.
Let's just say we were the test bed of many a platform. Yeah, no, it's
And amazing over those 500 episodes and all of those platforms, you probably got one full episode of value to the audience.
I wouldn't even say a full
At least 40 minutes. Probably 40 minutes.
I got 6 solid minutes, Stuart. 6.
It's a good batting average.
It's the only time where
remember-
we're actually just reading the headline. That's the only
yeah.
moment
That's
that
the
I actually have.
We're
have
saying
value.
our names and and that's about it. But this is I'm building a Frankenstein because I'm taking all the transcripts of all of our shows and putting it into AI as Q&A bot, so you
That
can
AI is gonna
talk
be
and ask
horrible.
questions about all.
Are you
the
going to create a
content
custom GPT for the hotel? What is this, hospitality digital marketing show? Is that what you're going to do? Like
It's on a platform we call IKEA, and it's actually all the shows, and you can ask like on content based on speaker,
That's awesome.
based on post, and you can ask questions about
How
what was
confusing
discussed
is that going to be when we did like all the times where we would
Oh,
flop
dude, I've already had to
to
go
a
in and
completely
say,
different
yeah,
point
let's
of
not
view?
use that word.
Does it pick up sarcasm? Because otherwise people are in trouble.
Yeah, no.
Well, if you filter out the sarcasm, that again, we're
I'm
back to
down
my
a
6
minute.
minutes.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I
Should I use blockchain? Yes, absolutely. Blockchain is so good.
And it's 100% meant for the travel
the sarcasm
industry.
is not a thing. I do have out where you go content of stuff. You say, yeah, there's no need for content of that or something. But yeah, it is awesome.
So Stuart, I think the one topic we did cover that you missed that
I'm
I'd love
impressed
to
you
hear
got
your
through one
thoughts on.
topic in an hour and a half. That's amazing.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
through one,
Yeah.
which is Robert's focus wire about how online travel giants spent 17.8 billion in marketing last year.
Yeah.
17.8. Now, I pointed out that the last time we all were on the show, that number was hovering around 6 to 7 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's 17.8.
Yeah.
And when
people are having to spend more to generate the same amount of business. It's harder to reach your audience. They're more fragmented. They're not paying attention. They don't want to be advertised to. There's more competition. Like there's everything says you're going to have to either spend more or do something that really stands out. There's the only two ways to maintain your results. So it's that trend's not going to stop.
And the interesting part is, even with that huge spend increase, again, what we were talking about with the performance marketing, how do you keep spending if it's profitable? Their margins are strong, right?
For sure.
It is working for them, and that's what they're doing. They're like, hey,
So
we spend more, we make more. Let's keep going.
In that same, has the pie grown in that time though? Like if
it's bigger, it's got more people taking part.
But is it tripled?
Back then it was really Expedia and Booking.com that made up all of it. Now Expedia and Booking.com only make up 14 billion of that 17 billion. And now you have Trip.com and Airbnb entered the chat, each with a couple of $1 billion.
Yeah. But has Expedia tripled their revenue at the same time they've tripled their advertising?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Right. So it
depends on how you count the revenue, right? Because you got all the air stuff, which they don't really get much margin on and stuff. It's just GDS fee and stuff. So,
they're having to work harder for the same amount of business. They may have grown a little bit, but it's not a 300% increase in the last 5 years or whatever. So,
right.
Yeah.
You know who wins? Google.
You know who doesn't win? Independent hotels that are relying on Expedia, because they're just going to continue to jack up their margins so that they can spend more on advertising to steal the intent that was already coming to the hotel's website by bidding on their keywords, which they still do, by the way, which is insane.
At a huge amount, huge amount.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you can see where they're paying attention to when hotels aren't doing a great job protecting their keywords. And that's when all of a sudden you'll hear the hotel say, like, oh, our OTA has picked up a ton. And it's like, oh, you cut your budget, didn't you? Well, they upped theirs. As soon as you cut yours, they didn't just stay. They upped theirs. And now
that's right. Now OTAs are way up, direct is down. How's that work?
Your total, how did that happen?
Total occupancy is the same. Weird how that works.
Yeah.
So strange. So strange.
But it also comes from an ignorance of acceptance, which we talked about the decision model within the administration of the particular businesses, that they choose for less information and more compliance, and saying, okay, we'll just let them continue to do it. We don't want to go through. It's not worth the squeeze to do what we're doing.
Well,
they check the box, man. They check the box.
Yeah. Well, and the cynical side, you just go, how much is that spend generating incremental revenue, right? Because then there's the whole thing on revenue management. You go, you're doing it. But you know what? What if you didn't have your revenue manager? You just have some analytics. You just kind of match the market. You float up, you float down. You kind of do that. And how are you doing? And again, I think for some hotels, they're probably doing some really counterproductive, expensive, because they're executing poorly, right? And they probably should go all OTA, eliminate revenue, just go with the flow, right?
It kind of goes to an old conversation I have where there's an erosion of education too. We lost gap points within the education cycle of those people that are now in responsible roles. And so they don't know better, or they don't want to be exposed to better. And there's a risk aversion. You pointed out, Ed, where it's like, I'd much rather allow things to run the way they're doing because the numbers match what I've been told they have to hit, goals or attribute, with value propositions, than to go up the chain and explain a different way of doing it with the risk of it not being as successful as I think it could be in comparison to just taking the mediocrity of what's happening right now.
Right.
I think there's a bit of an internal issue with that as well.
Yeah. We were talking earlier, Stuart, about kind of it wasn't a hesitancy of innovation. It was just kind of being bogged down, right? With just not really, getting it, or big picture, or getting under the important analytics, or making, what's the truth and all that stuff. The killer that I have, sorry, I got on my soapbox for a short period of time. You can kick the soapbox out from under me at any point you like. But the big one that I really see is the EU has this digital identity wallet thing, right? In 2026, 400 million people are going to have digital identities, right? And you kind of go, that might be an opportunity. The hospitality industry is just avoiding it like the plague.
I mean, to be fair, Robert, There have been multiple announcements over the last couple of years of hospitality industry businesses praising that they finally hit PCI compliance.
Yeah. Oh no! This past year, a major hotel chain finally
Those
got.
steam engines.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, just really, really crazy stuff. And one thing that I was involved with is one of the major. I guess I can talk about. Booking came out and basically said, "Hey, we've had this thing in our contract for a long time, and at least for the client, I look back, it was at least 2021, that we need your KYC information. We need to know the owner. We need to know the manager. Very standard in these things, just not really enforced, right? I didn't really. Maybe litigation pops up somewhere. They got to go pull it. And, that's fine. But the EU now is demanding that Booking comply with this. They have to, because I see I lost.
You bored Stewart to death.
I bored Stewart to death. Yeah. So the challenge though is Booking, just like Amazon, has to say who the seller is, right? It's very simple. You see on the seller, it's like, okay, they're selling that chair. Is it this guy or that guy? It's very straightforward, nothing controversial, but Booking has to comply, right? So they tell all the hotel brands, we need your stuff. Or if you don't give us the owner and manager, we'll just use your name because our contract's with you. Because the hotel brands all say, no, you talk to us, not them, right? We need to be in the center. So like, what is it? And if you don't, we got to knock you off the platform because we've got a penalty of 1% of global revenue per violation. And and I'll just pick on Hilton just because it's a nice round number. They got 500 properties in the EU. Booking doesn't want to call the EU's bluff for 5 times their global revenue because Hilton doesn't want to play ball, sort of thing. So it's insane. And then you got, on the other side, they're like, well, we don't want to provide this information because they might use it improperly. It's like, guys, it works just like GDPR. You've got to do this. And in 2027 or whenever, it might be 26, you've got to provide that KYC stuff to everybody who's selling your product in Europe. You want to keep track of that? And they're just going like, we don't want to do it. And it's like, guys, the train has left the station. You can lay down in the tracks if you choose to protest, but it's kind of like, you've got to do these things, right? And that's kind of the poster child for where the industry is. It's like, let's just keep things status quo and inertia and not.
Don't do it until we have to.
Right. Yeah. When somebody makes us, and it's like, maybe getting kicked off the platform. Maybe they go, oh, good, that'll be less OTA booking, but that's not going to work out for a lot of the hotels. But it's amazing. Even I was talking to one of the, I won't name them because of the private conversation.
Yeah, I wouldn't name them.
A major bed bank, right? Tens of thousands of hotels in the market. They have no idea. Their main product people have no idea this is coming down. It's like they have these wallets. You got to you're the merchant of record on these things. How is that going to work? And it's just absolutely not. And a huge opportunity, right? It's going to be disruptive, right?
It is. I mean, I'd say number one, it's probably going to get delayed, right? I think they're going to get close to it, like every major shift in technology that's a requirement for commerce, and it gets to the point they're going to say, shit, no one's ready for this, so we're going to have to delay it. That's number one. Number two, if I'm a hotel sitting there right now, and even if I want to embrace this, I don't know that I can, because the technology infrastructure I'm probably using, one of 800 different PMS systems or, software providers, they're not ready, and so it's like, I don't know what the solution is. And by the time you get there, we're probably going to be way on the path of agentic AI anyway. So some of this may be completely moot. So it's like, screw it. That's tomorrow's problem. Future me can solve this.
There is a solution, and I won't be self-serving like the other folks.
Are you going to say a universal identifier for hotels? Is that where you're going?
A registry of universal identifiers for hotels, yeah. And I've been told by
Never heard you talk about this before. I don't know.
No, but
I've never heard of this before.
This is a revolutionary idea. Tell us about this concept. This is brand new information.
All I can say is the guys who are the chief legal counsel for this KYC stuff, or the folks on the EU Digital Identity Wallet Consortium, or the cybersecurity guys at MIT, they all really love this. The Overture Maps guys, the Linux Foundation open source map.
So can we dig into this?
Open API guys love it.
So can I ask some questions about it? Because
Yeah.
I mean, joking aside, it's been a labor of love for you for, I don't know, as long as I've known you, probably long before that, right?
As long as
Decades,
the
maybe.
internet's existed, really.
Yeah.
Right after Robert's Bethlehem debacle of overbooking. It's really been
Right.
that long.
It was
Probably
actually in a Hedna spec in 1997.
Okay.
And in the original open travel spec, it's there. So yeah.
Okay, so it's been a concept for a while. I think universally people say, yeah, it's probably necessary. It's probably a good idea. Here's some things it solves, and it's certainly going to become more important in the future.
Right.
And I know you've tried to slice this like a dozen different ways with different groups. Where does it keep falling apart? Like what is the block that you can't overcome?
The challenge right now, and the way that it's structured is it has to be a nonprofit. You can't have equity because it can't get weaponized, right? Because nobody pick your devil on the other side of the ecosystem.
Like OpenAI, right?
Exactly.
That type of that, where eventually it'll become for profit. But
yeah,
in the beginning, it's going to be
let's say it's nonprofit. But yeah,
there's no. It works basically. The concept is it's a UPC code for the property, right? UPC codes drive global commerce and supply chain.
Who regulates UPC right now? I'm not.
GS1.
Okay, and who
and GS1 does
GS1?
not work. The GS1 is a nonprofit. It's a global nonprofit that basically does the UPC.
But who created that? There must have been a coalition of people that said,
a long time ago it was a bunch of like product folks. Like I think in the 50s, 60s, a long time ago. Right. And then the UPC guys merged with the EAN, which is the same code in Europe and stuff, slightly different format. And they have a whole ton of them, right? It does supply chains, container ship, all sorts of stuff. Where's my product?
Why don't you go to UPC and say, hey,
it doesn't work.
You do this? Why?
HTNG looked at that in 2012 because a hotel product is different. A UPC code that's the manufacturer, that's the product. So it's an 18-ounce box of Kellogg's cornflakes, right?
But what I'm saying is, so UPC as a standard probably won't work. But couldn't they regulate a new standard that is specific to hotels?
It's not. That's not really what they do. They do publishing, like I think they do ISBN.
Who does ISBN? Is that them too?
I think they may have acquired. I can't remember. There are a whole bunch of groups who do it. The challenge for hotels though is, and HTNG looked at this in 2013 with UPC and GS1. They said, good. What's a product? You go, a partial ocean view, high floor corner king with a tub or something like, whatever it is, that needs to go, you go broke, right? It's not just, you aren't just have one box of cornflakes that you're doing, right? It doesn't work. And they're not extensible, right? So it's a complete non-starter. It's the same thing. You have all these things. Look at basically the way this works is DNS. What's another one? IATA. IATA loves it, right? You don't need an airport code that says JFK versus EWR versus LGA in New York. You could do it with just, hey, these planes are landing wherever. And you don't need a 2-letter code to identify American Airlines versus United Airlines. It just makes it easier, right? So that's all the code does. And it's assigned to the hotel and that's it. And the record is that ID, the name, the address, a telephone number, some geo coordinates, and a room count. That's it. That's in the core record. But then you bolt on DNS, right? So what is DNS? If you have whatever, visit myrtlebeach.com, you point to a web server, you point to an email server. There's not a lot of confusion about that. So this allows you to point to sources of truth the same way that does, which are either, in that case, technical endpoints, right? And there's certain Open API has standards for that, or business relationships, because the other side of it is a problem with who's in charge of the hotel, the owner, the management company, or the brand. Because when you change the brand, everything breaks on distribution, right? The Tommy in Hollywood, California, became the Hollywood Volume, a Marriott Tribute property, right? That property took 8 weeks to get loaded and bookable as a Marriott on Google. And that wasn't on Google, right? And I have case after case after case. Everything break. The Kempinski outside Frankfurt on September 28th became a Hilton. That's great. on September 27th, Kempinski was selling those rooms for 2 years in the future. Hilton was selling no rooms.
But those
Right.
are all solvable problems, right? You just got to agree on the protocol for that, right?
Oh no, all this does is just the code with pointers, right? So you point basically to change a brand, you go, it's not a Hilton anymore. It's now
right. But you got to decide. So you got to decide on the business logic of that. Like, is it the physical building that is the product, or is
it's a physical building or
coalescence of things?
Okay,
so
if
before
I can
you
share
go into
my
that, I do have to run to get to my next meeting.
Ed's
it was good seeing you all. Congratulations,
Ed.
Lauren, on 500 episodes.
Thank you. And where can they find you?
Flip.to. Congrats, everyone.
Good to see you, Ed.
Good to see you, Ed.
Bye. Talk to you soon.
So this is what I did with the EU digital identity wallet consortium.
It just says loading. I can't actually see him.
Oh, it does? Oh, it'll be up in a second.
Yeah. It'll be up in a second. It does take a while on this thing.
Okay.
Oh, well.
So you know what you should do? You should just use the Dewey Decimal System. I think it solves every problem.
No. We are way beyond that. We've got, it's a 12 character identifier. We figured it all out, right? So that's
you
that part is not hard.
So is it tied to the physical building, or is it tied
physical
to
building? Physical building, right?
So if the brand changes or whatever, the code
or
stays
anything
the same for that
anything changes, right? Because it all comes down to these wallets. Can you guys see it yet?
No, it's still. Do you have a permission requirement on yours or anything like that? Because it's just saying it's loading. It usually Tim's loaded earlier than this, so I'm wondering whether there's a permission loading error.
It's white, and
it says.
So when you say we've developed the coding for it, who's the we in that? Is it HTMG or is that?
Well, it started. I headed an HTNG work group in 2019, right? And so we built the schema, we formalized the schema, and about 150 use cases, right? So that's all good. In February of 2020, it was like, okay, good. Let's now roll it out and talk. Have HTNG be the boom. COVID happened, right? And God love HNLA, right? I've been an advisor to HTNG and HLA for a long time. HLA is incredibly supportive, but they aren't neutral, right? They lobby against OTAs and stuff like that.
Robert, it's still not loading. It's showing a loading error.
Loading error? Oh.
Yeah, we're not seeing it come through.
Oh.
If you stop sharing and try again, maybe.
Oh, wait a second. Hang on. Let's see if I can.
There's probably a button there.
I know. Yep. I think I've got. I'll do entires. There we go. Yep, there was an error. I didn't see it. Okay.
So there we go.
Whoa. Okay.
There we go. No, you don't want to see that one. That's the end. Okay. So here's what I did for the EU digital identity wallet. We're talking about the property. So I gave them a scenario because in 2026 you have 400 million people with these wallets. Booking, as under the Digital Services Act, they have to accept this, right? Because they're a gatekeeper. It's a thou shalt, the European law, right? 27 countries are doing this. And what they're doing is they are issuing these wallets to the travelers. 27 EU markets. France, for example, has already approved 30 different wallets, right? So it's like, oh, that's going to be interesting because each country gets to do its own thing. There's a framework for it, but every country is kind of working on its own across all these things. So what I asked them, I said, okay, I've got a question on, and here's the scenario. I've got a hotel in Nice, right? And there's a booking.com, and it's going to be transacted through Hotel Beds as the merchant of record, right? Let's just say that's a scenario because that's not an edge case, right? That's a pretty common scenario. So that's okay. So I said, I have two questions of how this works for hotels, right? Because they're going through with payment companies and all this stuff and tying all this stuff together. The wheels are rolling, right? And there's, it's happening. Financial services companies are all over this, right? Because they want digital payments, scan the QR code and go things, all the things you can do in India and all these other places that you can't do in the EU or the US, right? So my question was, I've got a property in Nice. Where do they get a wallet? And they said, oh, it's simple. The local chamber of commerce. It's like, oh, how many local chambers of commerce are there in France? And they're like, I don't know. And it's like, well, it sounds like more than one or two. So that's going to be complicated, right? So that's fine. So I guess, okay, the hotels
Well,
can
that's not going to work because not every business is affiliated with their local chamber. Not every
Oh, no, the
business
chambers
is
of
in it.
commerce work differently. It's almost like the group that licenses you to be a hotel, right? It's a local jurisdiction. You've got a hotel operator's license or whatever the case.
So in
And those
Europe, that's how it works. Okay.
it's different from our chamber of commerce. So everybody hypothetically has that. There's somebody who's saying yes.
So there's not a single. What you've got here is the wallet issuer.
This is decentralized. The wallet issuers could be any of those 30 wallets that France approves. That is being picked by that local jurisdiction, the Nice. I don't know if it's Nice, the south of France, or it could be anything, right? But I'm a property owner, and my company that owns it is Marseille Venture Partners 7, right? Which is fine. I don't have to have anything to, and it's a real estate asset and a portfolio of other assets, right? Which is great. So my question to them was, okay, so we now, where they get the wallet. Who gets the wallet? And they said, well, it'd be the owner of the property. I go, okay, so it's Marseille Venture Partners 7. Perfect. Nothing with the owner, nothing with the management company. Right. They go, good. I go, okay, next question is, what happens when I sell this property to Lauren Stewart, Properties Inc. Leading slums of the world, right? Whatever the case may be. So, what happens with 2,000 reservations that are in my wallet, right? Because these things are based on, hey, the consumer can book straight in, and here's a transaction. We know who you are. We're transacting. Good. The wallets are connected. Here's the transaction. And
is the wallet going to hold the actual transaction, or is it just going to hold a ledger of the transaction?
It's actually, there's an identity wallet, and then there's going to be a payment wallet, which is related. Yeah. So there's this, I'm talking about the organizational ID, which is the same as like the traveler's ID. Because
let's think about that, right? Because if I bought something with crypto right now, say I use Bitcoin and I did an exchange, I still have there's a ledger of that in the thing. Right. The money's left my account gone to theirs. Right. But then the transaction itself is recorded in the PMS. Say I booked a hotel with crypto. The PMS is still the merchant of record per se, and still owns the reservation.
Technically, the merchant of record's probably the payment. Whoever, like the acquirer is saying who has the payment at some little account that the PMS is pointing to right through it.
Yeah, but I guess my point is, right now, if there's ownership change in a hotel, even in the current modality with a credit card, that's still like the credit card holds that ledger of the transaction. But my hotel reservation is still with the property.
Right. Yeah. It's with the ownership. It's associated with the property's ID. And then, and I'll show you how this works. So what I'm basically saying is, and what works with like the KYC stuff, if that ownership changes, that's fine. You can still say, yes, it's their wallet, but it's actually the hotel's wallet. It's the structure's wallet. The owner is an entity that's related to that operation, right? That property, because again, you could have separate owner, management company, brand. Those are all pointers to this core ID, right? Which is the organizational identity of that property, which is the structure itself, not really who owns it or manages it or transacts with it, right? So you wind up with all these pointers, and this is just, this is like three or four slides in the presentation. Anyway, so you have that. So I said, okay, that's fine. So how does that change? In this scenario, it's in this wallet. How do you get it from owner A to owner B if it's the owner's wallet? And they're like, that's not worked out. And I go, that's a problem. Right. That's a big problem they're taking it back to the consortium. That's fine. Then I said, on the other side, you've got Booking has to do that. They're the online travel agency in this scenario. And again, you could have an affiliate program with an influencer who's attached to them. But let's just say it's Booking. Do they have to have a wallet? Because they aren't the merchant of record, but they're transacting. And they're like, no, not really. It's got to be the property's wallet. I go, yeah, but Booking doesn't have a contract with the property. They've got a contract with Hotel Beds, who is the merchant of record and is going to be taking the money. Does Hotel Beds need, I think they have 50 or 60,000 hotels in in those 27 markets, right? Do they need 50 or 60,000 wallets? That doesn't seem practical, sort of thing. And hotel beds has to deal with the brand, not the property. So you've got this whole chaining thing going on here where there are contractual relationships, but it's not that wallet, because just the same way Hilton doesn't want to be responsible for slips and falls or food poisoning at the hotel, because that's a franchisee. That's not Hilton. Don't sue us. Hotel Beds doesn't want that exposure, and certainly Booking doesn't want the exposure. It's got to be these guys. The KYC stuff has to pass through, right? That's why the EU has the KYC stuff. So anyway, I explained to the EU it wasn't just this one-to-one. That's how distribution works in hotels, right?
Yeah.
And,
So did they go?
And they went,
oh,
yeah. And I ran through scenarios. I said, this can be an employee of I don't care, the LVMH, right? Who's working through their corporate travel agency, who's going through a GDS, which is winding up through a channel manager. And again, I didn't do a CRS and a BMS and all that, just try to simplify it, right? I don't know who their agreement is direct. I don't know. It's just messy. Then you get forms of payment on top of it. Who's getting paid? Is it commission? Is it agency model, merger?
I stand by my previous statement that this will get delayed. They're not going to solve this in 2 years.
Oh, no. They've solved it from a legal perspective, saying this is going to happen for not hotel. This is every industry. This is mobile driver's licenses. And
but it won't
this is insurance company.
It won't get implemented across everyone. It can't. If it doesn't function, it's
well,
not
and what they're doing is they're saying this has happened. Get ready. So the banking industry is working on this. They have some issues. The insurance industry is working on it. They have some interest. The hotel industry has issues. They are not working on it, right? At all, right? Which is, it's just ignored. It'll get delayed. And it's like, maybe it will, but maybe it won't, because right now, the way the law is written is in 2026, everybody gets the wallets and Booking has to do it. And the use case is you will be able to use this wallet. The travel example is you'll be able to use it when you book a hotel and when you check in, which sounds so cool until you start connecting the dots, right? So anyway, you got form of payment issues. Oh, you got a second currency, which is these reward programs. Do you qualify or not? And then, oh, heaven forbid you're trying to market. Sort of thing. Where's that going? And as we know, all of that stuff is siloed. Nothing talks together. How do you organize this? And my hypothesis is, what if you had a central registry, not a transaction processing platform, right? Not a content cache or anything like that, but something like DNS that points to stuff. And you go, for this hotel, for this particular property, the owner is on, October 5th is Stuart Lauren, right? Before that, it's Robert. Right. So you can schedule the stuff out in advance and that sort of thing and have it organized. Oh, we're going to change our brand from what I say before, Hyatt to Independent. Doesn't really matter. You can schedule all that out. And so those are kind of your business. Oh, my sustainability certification. Guess what? The certifier actually knows about me because I have their badge on my website. Right. That isn't always happening. Right. So, you can point to those business relationships. And especially with like the open API standard, you can start pointing to your sources of truth of here are my systems of record. Here's what I use and all that. And then the key is all of those pointers are permission based. So the hoteliers always complain about control. Who's selling my stuff? I don't know who they. Well, guess what? You can do that now. You go, hey, we need to be able to, and this isn't day one, right? But you go, does the property have an agreement with the brand? And it doesn't have to be a smart contract, but you can say, we've got a verifiable credential here, the same way you have a credential of, that wallet belongs to this property. You go, this property is part of Hilton. Doesn't matter. They're using DerbySoft. That's how, whatever. Hotel Beds is getting the content because Hotel Beds has a contract with the brand or whatever. That's fine. And that's going to be available. I don't care if it's through a GDS, through a travel agency, through whatever. All of a sudden, you can make sure using zero knowledge proofs that all of those connections exist, right? And you don't need to know the traveler's name and their address and their social security number or their health status or any of that stuff. You just know that traveler is dealing with that influencer who's dealing with that affiliate program with Booking, it's okay. There are links in there that connect the dots. Let's go.
Build the
That
trust,
person.
yeah.
And yeah, because it's all about trust, because then you start going, gee, when I search for something, what I want to have is, what am I eligible for? Oh, I've got an AARP membership. Oh, I've got a AAA membership. I've got a T-Mobile phone that gives me deals. I've got a Capital One card. I don't know what stuff you have, right? But all of a sudden you can go, yes, they're still an employee of whatever, so they're eligible for the corporate rate. They still have a Sam's Club membership, so they do it. You can start doing all that stuff, which is amazing. And then all of a sudden you can start figuring out this attribution stuff a lot better, right? And avoid all this sort of dreck of, oh, the packaged rate from that wholesaler got separated out and there is no air component. They're just selling the hotel on an a la carte basis and violating the terms. You can do all that stuff, but what you need is kind of this, this central idea. And this is the ERD diagram for it. Yeah, you just kind of go, yeah, you got this very limited stuff, but then you can tie into the whole thing because this identifier suddenly links it like that UPC code, right?
Yeah.
And that's,
all right. So I'm gonna kick the soapbox out from under you.
I've stopped sharing. Yes, intentionally.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So anyway, what's
next on this journey? Because this
next on the journey, the way we're standing it up is, if it was a regular for-profit company, would have a seed round and a Series A, right? Mm-hmm. With a nonprofit, nobody wants a Series B, Series C. That's very bad, looking for more money. So we think the number is $3 million to get started, because you need some technology, you need some people, and you have to survive the valley of death, which is like the first 24 months of negative cash flow, right? So that's fine. 3 million, not a big number for the global hospitality industry. So the way we want to stand it up, our seed round is only $500,000. It's 5 organizations, one from each sector, because we want to be neutral: an OTA, a GDS, a PMS, a hotel brand, and a platform, right? So,
but if you pick one OTA to be a seat, that's going to alienate the others.
It is not. It is not. Booking Holdings is in. They love it.
Okay.
And their rationale.
But now is Expedia Group, and screw it, I'm not going to play in this.
They love it. They love it. Booking wants Expedia to be involved. Expedia wants Booking to be involved. It solves massive amount.
So why don't you let them contribute with equal skin in the game, so it's unbiased?
Because, well, it isn't biased. It's one OTA rep. This is just the founding board. It's 5 founders, right? Okay. Then there's a launch. So I'll get into the Series A. Booking's rationale for doing this is, and they don't have any reason to blow smoke at me for this, 80% engineering time savings on integrations. 80.
Yeah.
It's huge, right? It's absolutely massive. And they're like, and it's an order of magnitude larger for all of our partners that we work with, right? So it's huge, right? So that's in.
But I'd be sitting there as Expedia saying, well, Booking has this seat on the board. That's a disadvantage to me.
No, it's not. Because it's neutral. This thing is just a registry. We aren't making decisions to go weaponize it or do anything like that. We're basically assigning IDs to properties. And the way. Oh, well, actually, let me finish the funding. So then the next round is you get 50 groups at 50,000 each, right? And you kind of go, and again, that's not very big. And people say, 50,000, that's my cheapest FTE, offshored FTE who's screwing with my mapping table, right? And you go, right. And they're like, well, you should charge more. And it's like, you want me to charge more? And they're like, well, no, but you could. It's like, it's not for profit. It's how do you get started? And I have 30 groups like that are already in. They're like, yes, go stand it up. So we have a PMS who I can't say right now, large PMS, tens of thousands of hotels on their platform.
Okay, right? That limits it. Okay.
I've got a GDS. I'm having some issues. It's fascinating seeing the decision-making process through various organizations. In 2 ways, the way it's stopped, everybody loves it except the one little group that has to pay for it, right? And they're like, we don't, deep pockets, short arms, because it's like, okay, it's going to come from your budget. And they're like,
kind of like Lauren when we go to dinner.
Yeah,
of all the time with me. Actually, as a matter of fact, I go to the bathroom. I don't even try to attempt to look like I'm grabbing the wall. I got to go to the bathroom for.
Well, he scopes it out to make sure there's an exit by the bathroom, just so it's even easier.
The times he's got stuck in that window in the bathroom.
Yeah. So that the platforms all love it, but it's too small, right? Because quite honestly, Google loves it. They said if it existed now, 7 operating divisions would use it, and they would love it, and they have ROI. But it's too small for these guys to go ask Google for $100,000 to found it. It's too much political capital, right? Yeah. All these other. Yeah, I could go through all the major platforms, and I'm talking to 2. I'm pretty deep with a couple of them, and we'll see.
Plus, so what if you did raise 10 or 20 million? Like, I know you said nonprofit, right? But you could design and deploy something more rapidly.
So what we do? No, we don't need it. The technology for the registry isn't that hard, right? Technology for the registry is like maybe 1.2 million, right?
Right, but money would buy you speed and adoption, right?
What we're doing though is the launch partner round with the 50 partners. All of a sudden, you have 55 really large groups, and it starts looking like adoption, right? And we're going to come out of the gate with things that behave like hotels. So we're going to have 1 million some properties, right? Pretty easily. So you kind of can get it stood up.
How many properties are in just the US? Do you know?
That nobody knows. That's the weird thing. Nobody knows how many. No, there are like 60,000 properties that they say STR has or whatever, but nobody really knows the number. It's really crazy. And then you go into the vacation rental side, which is just crazy, and short-term rental is nuts. So,
and are you handling like condotel and stuff? So if I have a property that has individual homeowners,
because the schema supports, as I said, extensibility. So you can say, here's the building, like in Myrtle Beach, right? You got a condo.
Yeah, so here's a building, here's a unit.
And you want to subdivide it into different ownership groups or segments or towers or floor. You can do, it's like knock yourself out, right? You can sub-segment it. And it even supports timeshares. If you want to sell these week to week, you can say, here are owners of these 2 weeks, and just go, now, we're starting with things that behave like hotels, right? And, professionally managed vacation rentals. There's a woman in North Carolina because I was talking to Verma, they said, hey, talk to her. Her husband's a software developer. She has 1,000 units using her husband's PMS, basically, right? Yep. And you kind of go, that's pretty sizable. And yes, she would kind of count, even though it's fragmented, right? It's an atomized hotel, right? So anyway, we have all of that. So what I'm doing is herding the 5 whales right now and trying to get them across which has been interesting. But again, they all love it. But I'll give you another example. Oracle loves, I don't think I'm talking out of turn. They go, yeah, we will work with this. We will map OHIP to it. But Larry Ellison he doesn't like founding nonprofits, or they don't do it anymore, or what. And you go, that understandable, full respect. Yeah, we don't want to change the world for this tiny little thing, right? But they're like, yeah, we get it. And then how do we get these hotels? Well, Booking has 3, when you come in, right? When you join up, you go, great, here's my mapping table. And we go, here's a whole bunch of hotels. Wow, we got 3 million of them. Hey, where do we draw the line with Booking? Let's draw to 1 million, whatever, right? But then when Oracle comes in, they got 50,000. And that's private information for Booking right then. But when Oracle comes in and goes, we got 50,000 hotels, and guess what? They're all in Booking for whatever. Good, those 50,000 can now be published in the registry, right? And then you bring in Expedia, they got 750,000 or whatever, and you go, okay, this is fine, and maybe 500,000 or whatever. You wind up triangulating this with all these, and because again, all we're doing is assigning the ID.
So,
right?
Robert,
That's it.
Robert, I just want to let you know that I now owe my wife. I won't even tell you what I owe her, because at the beginning of this, when I told her we were going to be able to get everything.
Oh no. You said we'll be off within an hour.
I'm going to keep it in an hour.
You lied to her.
I'm not blaming you. No. See, here's the thing. I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming Stewie, because Stewie.
I poked the bear.
You did. You poked the bear. You said, please explain this to me. Now, I do have one thing I'm asking you, Robert, which is genuine and sincere, because I've talked to you about this before, and every time I hear you describe it, you've refined your conversation about it, and you make it more succinct, as strange as it may sound. So, I mean, technically, you did what you.
It's DNS. It's DNS. Normally, I don't go through that graphic with.
No, but you brought it down. But what I'm saying is, okay, so we have this TV channel, thing that we did. This thing is sitting on. I get more people looking at that. I put stuff on the non-pay side of it, products and people and things and stuff I'm doing with food and beverages and stuff like this.
Right.
Honestly, if you need a place to point people to that's not YouTube this or web page browser this, let's put up your condensed presentation, whatever.
That's not,
you want
but that's not the strategy. The strategy is we don't want to talk about it until it's formed with the 5 founders.
But maybe some sort of consensus.
You just spent 40 minutes talking about it on this show.
Yeah, so I think it's there already for it, but
but it's not launched. No, we have API days, right? The biggest API conference around the planet. They want us to present in the New York conference. It's like we don't exist, sort of thing, right? They want us in Bangkok for HTNG. They want to, it's like, no, we don't want to talk about this. Is an idea we're thinking about. It's like, let's get the 5 together. We're done. It's founded. We're getting the launch partners, boom. And then once we get the launch partner, then we build it, right? Sort of thing.
See, I would be doing the opposite if I were you, because this is taking a long time. I think I'm a big believer that you can will something into existence by talking about it, and you talk about it enough, then it just
you can. But in this case, the whole thing is what's in it for the individual groups, right? Because you need to get the 3 million bucks, and it's the 100,000 and the 50,000, right? So I don't want to herd 55 at a time. That's a lot hard. That's geometrically harder than herding 5, right? But I'm thinking, that's why we're structured.
Perspective, I think you're right with it though, because and here's my logic. This, and I've always wondered this when you've told me about how you've been hitting the struggles with this, is that sometimes sentiment of the idea overrides the individual's resistance to decision.
100%.
Oh no! Everybody wants
it. Momentum.
But see, you don't have everybody. You don't have everybody because you just said you're not. This isn't public knowledge.
No. I've had 100 conversations with folks. Pretty much everybody likes the idea. Yeah. But again, the whole population doesn't make it happen.
But they would. Because here's the thing. I mean, I use the technique all the time, and it's like you get the underling to talk about a wish list, or you get the person that says, "Why can't you give me this?" And you get this sentiment growing because the people that you're talking to find all the reasons they're telling you of why they're not making the pulling the trigger on something. Yeah. And you're now getting to the point where if they hide it, jeopardize.
But nobody believes it until the big guys are in, right? It's kind of a chicken. Everybody goes, that looks great. But the question, there are 3 questions, right? What's in it for me? What's my direct ROI? Why? Because everybody kind of gets it's good for the industry. That's fine. Somebody should do this is the general sentiment. But it's got to be like, should I do it?
This is not to the same scale, Robert. This is not to the same scale that you're dealing with. But I had a dear friend that had the best gluten-free recipe for making flour product, but he was so afraid of it being shared until he could control the messages of it that the market overran him and now sold better than him because he was so afraid of sharing it out. It got taken over by somebody else.
And it's not a fear of sharing it out. So I've been sharing it openly with people.
But you need to get sentiment. I think.
There is sentiment,
but it's small scale. Like I think what Lauren's saying, I agree with this.
Let the people get into the streets.
Small scale. You want a movement on market cap. The companies I've talked to, if I agree on market caps, probably
no. We're not talking about market cap. No. They have control, but you're in the situation where one guy that doesn't like to start nonprofits is creating a big block. If you had tens of thousands of hotels saying, this would help us.
This would help me. Where
that problem goes away.
But all those hotels are going to go, is there a major hotel brand?
They're not. They're not that sophisticated.
No. See, that's where you've gotten disseminated. It's not. Nobody's following the lead on this anymore. They're all about in it for me. What's in it for me?
All you need to do, go to those conferences, Robert. Put up the logos. Here are the people we're talking to. You're not saying they're committed. So now Google's there. Now Opera's there. Whoever, right? Yeah. Say, these are the people that are involved in the conversations. These are the next step, but I think you got to go from stealth to wide open. That'll accelerate it.
It's been something
100% accelerate.
Push it from a anyways.
I may go. We'll see.
Robert, I will promise you this. I will give you a show. I will give you controls to the show, and you can do whatever you want with.
We already have rollout. We've got website. We've got all sorts of stuff that we can do. But the challenge that I've gotten from the sentiment of the key players that we need in those 55 is all get the 5. If those, whatever 5 groups they are, just because they want to make sure. Well, and also you can't stand up. If you do that, you've got to stand up the association.
What's
first,
the old
right?
saying? Where's Tim Peter when you need him? What's the old saying? You're holding up a dollar for a dime.
No, I'm not. Because
Robert,
no.
So why go register a nonprofit? What are you waiting on? It's a couple $100.
Because I realize that when you register the nonprofit as a 501c6, this isn't a 501c3 for the public benefit.
Right,
this is right. Yep. It's for the benefit of the industry. All of a sudden you have membership and meeting. So let's just say hypothetically, not that this would happen, but let's say, people agree with, we want to make sure we have sector representation. It winds up being Marriott, which is great, and Amadeus and Agilysys. That's Marriott's tech stack. That people have told me would kill it right there, because people go, oh no, this is a Marriott deal. It's, even though it wasn't
that's why I think you got to democratize it. I think the limitation of 5 and only 1 from each category is gonna kill it.
I think you're allowing one,
and your lack of speed is going to kill it. Like, technology is moving at such a rate right now. I mean, we're on the cusp of agentic AI. If you've been playing with Operator, it's going to fundamentally change.
Oh no, I know.
The world needs this.
It
can't wait.
It desperately, because on the AI side, I mean, David Edelman at MIT, right? He used to be Obama's cybersecurity czar. Mm-hmm. He loves it. He's like, you have to have this for AI, because
everyone loves it, and yet they're not pulling the trigger, right? And you've been working on it for 20 years. It's like,
no, I haven't been working on it for 20 years. I've actually been working on it for now 9 months, right? Okay. Seriously, before it was just like, this was a good idea, but no, it was
that's the thing. It hasn't gotten off.
But there were things governance-wise and structure and we've solved kind of all those. The tech.
You need a marketer on your team, man. You need someone to go market.
No, we do. We already have that.
The marketing is. We have to again for that. But all said and done, I owe Renee because she said
the challenge is
last a couple hours, and I said no. I'll keep it in an hour. We'll be fine. Yeah, and then Stuart shows up fashionably late, and then says, "Oh,
over an hour late," and then delay another hour.
What the meaning of the universe is.
I will come back soon, and we can rehash this conversation.
Please. We'll do it all back.
Or we can have it. Yeah. No. I completely agree. That was a consideration, and folks who've set up nonprofits in advance, and with setting up startups, is kind of like, you've got to figure out the seed round and the Series A to make sure that gets funded, right? That's kind of, because you don't want to go full Series A. Trying to get 60 people on is just chaos. That takes longer, right?
That's like saying the best legal advice you can get is don't hire a lawyer. It's like
no, it's not. No. The challenge on this is it's basically the domino theory, right? If you can get kind of the larger credible guys, they're in, then everybody goes, got it, it's real, right? Let's go, because otherwise.
I do know what you're saying, Robert. I just see it in the same light of with stories like, look, you got to get momentum. You need to get. You need to get consensus of a larger audience that isn't the ones that actually have the money or the decision.
But you need $3 million. You need $3 million in capital to go do it as a nonprofit.
Not to start a nonprofit. You can change the bylaws of a nonprofit. You could set up a nonprofit with you as the entire board for day one, and then have a protocol.
In Texas, you need 3. In Texas, you need 3, but that's okay.
Fair enough. So 3 folks, and then you can change the bylaws, create the thing as you go. I'm a big fan of building the plane while you fly it. I'm a big fan of
we have all that stuff is set up, but the challenge is then who's funding, and you don't start until you get the 3 million, right? You don't piecemeal it out, because you've got to get the.
But you can go stand on stage at a New York conference on APIs without any funding, right? You can do the stuff to get that momentum with zero funding.
Well, I
hey, I won't start coding. I won't start doing this until the funding. But there's a lot of work. I mean, this is a labor of love for you. You're doing this at no revenue right now, and you can get. Yeah. I don't know. I would hate to see someone that's so passionate about something miss out on it because you took too long.
It's going to happen, and people will say, hey, you're trying to get this thing done in a year.
Yeah, but
the hotel industry, that's so fast. These guys won't.
I don't want you to be Picasso, where I go to your grave and say, "Man, nice paintings."
Yeah, your habitat's gonna be shit. I shouldn't have taken so long. Um,
Well,
All
yeah.
Lauren, I know you got to run. Like,
I
let's
got
put a
to
pin
run.
in
I
it.
literally,
We'll-
it sounds like a corny phrase, but honest to God, I had no idea this was going to
No,
bump up
no,
until
no.
2 o'clock.
And just my last word on it. The only reason I'm doing it is nobody else would. Nobody else is
Right.
stupid enough to do it. So
Well, the painting said a lost cause. No, it's not a lost cause. It's a great cause. Robert,
it's not.
is there anything
Anyway.
you want to tell people about finding out more about this? If they are interested in understanding beyond us,
You can go to hospitalityid.org and see a blocked website.
Okay, there we go. Blank website.
Publish it, man. Turn that on. Put all the specs there. Do
Put
that
it
today.
there. Let
Like, there's
people
no
find out.
downside to that. There's zero downside to that.
I will
There-
sell the crap
do
out
it.
of that. I will
There
sell.
there
and become
is
an advocate.
there is downside because the people want to know what's in it for them, B, what's the adoption,
You know that.
and
You know-
C,
No, they don't
is
need to
this
know
thing
that yet.
self-sustaining? Is it self-sustaining? That's for
Well,
They
the
don't need that
just
now.
wanna know if
They
it's
need the
gonna benefit
why.
them if it
They
runs.
need the why. Give them the why today. Go publish that.
I am.
Give them the what's in it.
Stewie, I'm preaching with you, man. I'm
Okay.
agreeing with you on
Yeah.
that, Vanguard. So, Mr.
Okay.
Butler, is there any personal secret stuff that you want to share as to? What
Oh,
people
I
do?
want to tell people that I have a new show, and I would love to invite you on it. It's called Destination Discourse. So, as
Woo!
people may or may not know, I conquered the podcasting world with hotels. Now I'm conquering the podcasting world with destinations. Now that I'm a CMO
Excellent.
for DMO, I'm a CMO DMO, CMO.
Demo.
So I've created a show which is inspired by you, Lauren. It's called Destination Discourse. You can get it on podcasts, you can get it on YouTube, and it's people from the destination industry, tangential to the hotel industry, talking about the things we need to talk about more, the things we're thinking about a lot, we need to talk about more. And we get a little feisty in that show. It's very much more of a frictionful debate at times, and it's been a lot of fun. So
if
please
you
check
want to
out
talk about
Destination Discourse.
if you want to talk about digital identity and credentials for all that stuff, let me tell you, I'm all over it. Probably
Hey,
not, but
DMOs are just now adopting CRM, so I don't think we're quite there yet. So we'll get there. But Lauren,
Yeah,
congrats.
exactly.
Happy birthday on the 500th
Thank you.
anniversary.
Thank you,
or-
Mr.
or
Cole. Thank
whatever
you.
it is.
I miss all you guys. when we get to
I'm
do this
glad I
together.
got my background fixed. I'm glad they stopped the pool pumping thing out there, and I did drop my coffee cup. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay,
Robert,
that's what it
if we keep talking, we can watch Lauren squirm for another
I'm about
5
to
or 6
say, I got to
minutes.
go to the
think
show.
we-
Like, hey,
we
just
can
join
work.
our show. It'll be fine. Let's talk about stuff at the company. Yeah. All right, guys.
I'm
I'll talk to you guys
disappointed
soon.
we didn't make 2.5 hours. Damn
Oh,
it.
2 hours,
Thanks,
25 minutes, 2 hours and 26 minutes. All right.
All right.
Bye,
Good to see
guys.
you guys.
Bye,
Congrats,
guys.
Lauren. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
all.